People would never guess that I was completely fragmented and had no happiness for like 35 years. I wasn't happy.
What do you think had stolen your soul?
My belief that what my family and culture had told me was true. I had to be perfect. I had to let everything everybody did to me go. I wasn't allowed to speak my truth. Guilt and shame led my life.
You wouldn't say healing was becoming someone new.
No, it was coming back to me.
Yeah.
Finally.
What do you think happens to people when they ignore their purpose?
People get burned out, unhappy, nihilistic, believing that nothing matters.
Would you agree that anxiety, depression kind of, not all of it, but a lot of it stems from living other people's lives?
Yes.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. What we do on this podcast is bring guests from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, to share their journey and everything along the way that led them to where they're at today. Real conversations, raw emotion, and the kind of human connection that can't be faked. We're here to make an impact, and that is what we do. But without further ado, I would love to introduce today's guest on this beautiful Sunday, my man, Tycho of Inner Core Gains. Woo!
Hey, Joe.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Got to get more hyped up than that, dude. I'm just kidding. You've got a very stoic thing about you. Do you hear that often?
I've been asked many times if I'm in or was in the military.
Yeah.
And I think about that as like, we just talked about clarity.
Yeah.
And like, for me, there's an element of like, I don't want my energy to get out. I want to work with it. So like, you know, I've definitely had a lot of my life where it was like frenetic energy and it didn't amount to much besides more frenetic energy.
Yeah. I can probably work on harnessing mine a little bit.
We all can.
I get so amped up.
It's great.
I get fired up.
You know, amped up is like, if you can amp up, you know, like Kundalini in yoga, if you can amp up and like get the channels flowing, like you're cleaning up your chakras, like that's great. But if you're like, you know, doing this stuff and like, then it can't really be accessed, right? Because we're always accessing each other.
Dude, you know what's funny about that? Interestingly enough, I just started doing yoga regularly. So I'll go out in my field and just put a mat down and I do yoga. And it's something really beautiful about just doing it just out in, you know, on some land in nature. But a big thing for me is focusing on basically channeling everything and lining it up a little bit better. And a lot of that comes from getting your breathing under control. Oh, yeah. And I'm a bad breather. Like, I don't breathe like wild. I don't snore or anything, but like I hold my breath a lot. So if I'm like focused on something, I'm like, you know, or if I'm driving, like I do it a lot. I don't know why. I think it's just a response to something. So I'm working on like really just getting my breathing under control. So that way I can just manage my energy output a little bit better, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So like inspiration and respiration, right? It's all the same introduction to the world, right? We're talking about the same eration, right?
Yeah.
We're like, it's part of what gives us connection to ourselves and spirit, or whatever you want to call that thing that's greater.
Yeah.
Right. So breath, the reason we all hold it is because instinctively, reptilian brain wise, we're thinking that that's like safety.
Yeah.
Like, and then we can like, but really when we're breathing, we can actually do more, like Bruce Lee.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, you're thinking about my boxing stuff, like, you know, being in a match with somebody, you know, at first it was like hold my breath a lot. You know, after one round, I'm just like, God, I am exhausted, dude. I'm worn out. Gotta breathe. That's how you last several rounds. That's how you keep going, you know, but it translates to everything. And we'll probably dive more into that because I'm excited to talk about what it is that you do and all those wonderful things. But first and foremost, tell us a little bit about what life looks like for you today, just briefly, before we start taking it back into the beginning of the journey.
My goal, because of my journey, is now to help people live their purpose most quickly and most efficiently throughout their day and through their lives.
Nice.
There are two modalities that I'm working with that I'm offering to people in this regard. And one of them is my gym, which I built over in Bellevue, which is part of my downstairs of my house. And bought the house for that reason. So like, this is why I moved here, to make this happen.
Oh, sweet.
So Intercore Gains is downstairs. It's 650 square feet, and it is all the best equipment, sauna, rope equipment. Like, it's
pretty
where
sweet
it's at.
setup.
It's my thing. Yeah. Dream come true. That is what I do for fitness. And I call that like specialty fitness, because that includes working with clearing out subconscious blocks.
Nice.
We'll talk about that in a second. But the other thing that I do is my business speaking. So I help financial institutions re-engage teams with burnout to restore focus, morale, and high-level execution fast.
Nice, dude.
So that's like a scalable experience where I'm getting people, audiences, into their purpose from the stage, as opposed to my Intercore Gains work is only one-on-one.
So like, definitely, it's like working with, high-level corporate stuff, pretty much.
Yes.
That's awesome, man. So, and you're able to draw them towards, your other work as well.
Totally. So like, I have a selling speech where I could, like, if they allow me, I can speak my speech and be like, you want to join and do this. But that only works if they live in the Nashville area, because I don't do online for the fitness. I do online for the subconscious work where I'm clearing the mind, but I try not to do that as much unless they want it.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah, I offer that, but I want to do my one-on-one stuff in Bellevue, or I want to do speaking to
that's awesome
financial corporations.
I mean, I feel you on that, like doing my show. This will be my 201st episode. Yeah. And so
nice.
201 episodes all in person. So I've had people ask me like, do you record virtual? Nope.
Right.
Just because you can't get the same thing out of it. Like, this conversation wouldn't be what it is. Like, the last hour that we had before wouldn't be the same. We wouldn't have had all that value had we done this virtually, right? So I've been strict on it. It is what it is. And I've had several people obviously fly in from across the country just to come share their story. So it's been beautiful. But is so much more value about doing things with somebody face to face. And I think that'll become more valuable in time as we see the world shift. I think that there will be more of a call, and people will desire that more. It's great doing everything virtually now, but I think that people are going to get tired of that.
Well, there's, I think that every system and every experience has, tendency towards fads. And like, there is a fad in this culture right now to be more efficient by being virtual.
Yeah.
And that efficiency has its benefits for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
I utilize AI for several different things.
Exactly. But it also has the dark side and the back side, which is like, we're not as connected, and you can't literally touch each other. You can't hug each other. You can't like feel the energy of somebody's aura.
Yeah.
Which is real.
100%.
You go into a room and you feel something because somebody's there.
Yeah.
You can't do that with Zoom, although you'll see their face. It's like, it's a screen.
Yeah, exactly. And if it glitches, you're like, dude, I don't know what to do. But that's amazing stuff, dude. What's exciting for you right now? What feels most aligned in this season?
So obviously there's a big thing right now about talking about like what we do as people, and that's like who we are. Yeah. And it's definitely not who I am to be doing this work, but it is a product of who I am.
Yeah.
And I love it because I get to offer what I've learned in my own healing journey. Right. So my answer to that question as I'm speaking is coming up as like, I am going through the healing right now of experiencing what I would call the PTSD from growing up in the family that I grew up in, to not wake up feeling like this impending sense of doom.
Yeah.
Which I know I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
But it's my personal, like, next, let's call it elevation, right? I'm working through that right now. And like, I get the Sunday jitters where Monday's coming and I don't have everything in line the way I want it to be. And I do all the best work I can do, but like, I can't make a client show up, and I can't make, speaker booker do the booking and book me, and I can't make people be, elevated and healed, right?
Yeah.
I can only do what I can do.
I'm curious how, before we take it back, I am curious about this because something I'm working through now is, so you probably get it. There's like relationships you build that like, okay, this is going to happen. I'm going to have this client or I had this opportunity, and then it falls through. I'm sure this happened, at some point, did it get to you? Did it become exhausting to where it's like, dude, what the hell am I even doing? And like, because you seem to be at a place where you're just like, well, I can't make them do that. And that's okay. You just keep going about the work. And I'm there. Like, I've had a lot of situations like that. And I'm just like, but I got to keep going. I'm like, this is my purpose. I know I'm headed in the right direction. Everything in me knows it. But, you know, those things fall through and it's like, it contradicts, right? So how do I have just peace with that? You know, right. Like bills got to get paid. This has to happen. This has to happen. I want to grow. So I guess it sounds like you've already come to peace in that place.
Working on it.
Yeah.
It's a life work.
Okay.
So I would say there's a balancing act between compassion and boundaries in this iteration of what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Compassion
is everybody's on their own journey. Everybody's going to do what they got to do. Some people don't want to change. And boundaries is this person isn't going to work with me because we don't align. And even if we're working together and we don't align, you know, it's time for them to go.
Yeah.
Right. That's a boundary. But you have to constantly be balancing those two things.
Yeah.
So that's part of my experience too, of like balancing where I set the boundary and where I'm like, people are people. And I think one thing that I've learned in my journey that feels good right now to talk about is that everybody is doing the best that they can, period, end of story.
With what they have, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But the best they can often isn't moral or isn't aligned with good intention if we look at it from the greater, you know, sphere of life and, you know, what we've experienced.
It's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. So, and it's very tricky, and it's like a razor thin line where I'm not going to work with everybody, but I also can't just tell like 95% of people that they can't work with me because they're not wanting to change and ready to change and have the money. And, you know, we get along perfectly. And right. So there's like, you know, dud avatar clients, there's avatar clients, there's bullseye avatar clients, right? You can get, they're close, but they're not there. They're right there, but they don't have time. Still not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You know, I think me being me, and I look at like my astrology and stuff too. I believe in all that, you know, to a degree. And I tend to focus on what someone could become. I see potential in everybody. I see potential in myself all the time, you know, where I could grow at. And I see that in everybody around me. And I don't know. I guess I just, I believe in people, right? But I think having so much belief in everybody around you can also like stifle you. Does that make sense?
It can also literally crush your financial capacity because they rented from you and they don't pay rent.
100%. Perfect example. So, yeah. Anyways, dude, this is going to be great. I'm already stoked. This has already been awesome. Tycho, before we get to what led you to where you're at, let's go to that. Let's go back to your family history. Let's go back to your roots. You know, where do you hail from? Talk about childhood a little bit, some influences there that really inspired your path, or, you know, for better or for worse, right? And I mean, it's all for better, right? You know,
it's all for better.
There's gold in it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, take us back, man.
All right. I have traveled a lot in my life, not because of military, because of my father's business. So he buys and sells engravings for a living, and that's where I got my name. So my namesake is Tycho Brahe. He's a Danish astronomer. In Danish, it's Tycho Brahe.
Okay.
And he taught Johannes Kepler. You may have heard of him.
Yes.
He made the 3 laws of planetary motion. And those laws were actually kind of stolen from Tycho because Tycho would hold some of his observations secret and wouldn't show them to his main student, which was Johannes Kepler. He got an island off the coast of Denmark from the king of Denmark because they were best buddies and they were drinking buddies. And in fact, Tycho died from drinking because he held in his pee at a banquet, because you're not supposed to get up unless the king does. So I try not to hold my pee. But
it's a lesson. Yeah.
Actually, yesterday, my fiance was telling me, have you noticed that you kind of look like your namesake a little bit? And
really?
I was like, right. And I'm like, huh? And we didn't think about that, but that was kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
And, energy is funny.
It is.
Whatever it means. Also, there's like coincidence, right? If you don't see it, you wouldn't say that, whatever.
Do you have Danish roots, by the way?
I don't.
No, you don't?
Just the name.
Okay.
So what I was saying was that I've traveled because of my dad's business. I was in Cambridge for 3 years, went to London, which is Maida Vale near Manchester for 2, and then came back, and I grew up in Newton, which is about 10 minutes west of Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay.
That's where I grew up. And I did not like growing up. I did not like my formative years or most of my life. I would say I wasn't very happy.
Really?
I found happiness, but that's coming later. But I grew up in a family which was on the surface, like finances were great. And I was in a, school that's considered one of the top schools. And, one sibling, 2 children and 2 parents still married, like, okay. But I grew up, and this is like where the PTSD I was talking about came from. I grew up in a family system where I had a mother with a lot of issues with men that she holds dear to her heart, which she took out on her husband and mainly on me because my dad doesn't know how to hold boundaries, and I didn't even know what boundaries were. So it was always getting me to feel bad, and I was guilt-tripped for everything. And even how I was perfect, I was still not perfect, and it was like constant. So I was ground down and just like a lonely kid, a lonely human for many years.
Yeah. I will say, not to interrupt, but like a lot of family dynamics generationally don't understand boundaries.
Totally. Boundaries are
very uncommon.
Exactly. And I think one thing I think that this is a great side note about boundaries is in the Western culture, and especially in America, we are taught to let it go and not speak up for what needs to be said because that might create some kind of drama.
But that's how you break generational chains. And that's how you change the whole trajectory of your blood moving forward.
So here's the...
It takes courage.
Essence, it takes courage. Here's the essence of my healing journey, Joe. Because I chose to hold firm boundaries and heal myself through all the trauma, which is different on both sides of my family, and be the guy who's like, I'm going to heal for myself and eventually my children. I can say now that I am ostracized from my family completely. I don't talk to my nuclear family and my other relatives. None of them ever mentored me. I would say 2 of them understand where I'm coming from, but nobody's like, Tycho, I got you. So it's like I am familyless by choice because I found what boundaries meant, and none of them like me having those boundaries, so they don't want to agree with me or be with me.
Because a lot of people because it's family, they get away with this, they get away with that. Dude, that'll bring you misery if you just allow everything to bypass those boundaries. But I say it all the freaking time. Blood is chosen. And I believe in that. Like, you choose your family, and if they just happen not to be related to you, well, then that's okay. But a lot of people, your path, you sound like this self-work, may see it as individualistic. And I know we live in a very individualistic society, but you can't become better for a community or family until you center who you are.
The word people use to not do it is selfish.
Exactly.
They say that is selfish.
It's self-centered is the key right there, because I've talked about this a lot, but selflessness is giving from an empty cup.
Right.
When you're self-centered, when you're centered in who you are and you're aligned there, then you can pour out as need be from a better place.
Exactly. And, like these words can be very nuanced, and like you can talk forever just about the idea of selfless, right? You can be selfless by knowing yourself and having a boundary and then being selfless on top of that. But in general, when people talk about selfless, they're like, just do what the world needs because that's what you're supposed to do. And then you get burnt out and you're not there.
Yeah, and you're like, I have nothing left now. Like, what the hell? Yeah. And you can create such a greater impact by, filling your cup up first in the way that needs to be and getting into alignment and then being selfless from a higher place just as an individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
And higher place is mind clarity.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And, I think, with that comes spiritually, I think spiritual alignment and all those different things, right? Mind clarity, also physical alignment, being the best in all those ways. But so you did a lot of work. You said you're now ostracized, which, seems to have benefited you though now, that you're constantly working on yourself, right?
Yeah.
There was a place where music was a big influence in your life. So talk about that for a second.
Music, the cliche is music saved me. In kindergarten, I saw on the ground a piece of paper that said, start taking violin lessons. And I was like, yes. I don't know even like where it came from, but I was like, yes. And I brought it home to my parents and I was like, I want to take violin. And they're like, okay. And so they got me into violin lessons. And I did that for like 2-3 years. And it was fine. It didn't really elevate me. And then I kind of like let it go. And then I found drums. And drums, I think we have a similar thing about like, we're not as sports oriented, but we're more like athletic, like health oriented.
Yes.
And drums were my physical outlet.
Yeah.
It's like a dance.
Yeah, for sure, man. And you had mentioned drumming earlier, so it makes a lot of sense. What did drums give you that life wasn't giving you?
Connection. I mean, I could talk about like the sentience of music and drumming, and that's a whole fun thing to talk about too. But like being able to sit at a drum kit and have 4 limbs working together to make a coherent sound is one of the most pleasurable things I can imagine.
Yeah.
And it was like, finally I found something. And as a very lonely child and person, I was like, it was like relief.
Yeah.
Like I got it.
Yeah.
I got something.
And you're able to create,
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing in itself. Would you say it was your identity or your escape or something else?
Yeah, I would say more escape in the beginning. I didn't really find connection with myself for many, many, many years. And I would say my health journey has been a part of, finding myself and being connected to my heart.
Yeah.
And drumming was like, it was kind of like reminding me that I have a heart, but I wasn't really there until many years later.
Yeah.
And I would say that the reason I liked music in the beginning was because it like helped me be a performer, which is how a lot of people experience life, is like performing as opposed to being.
Yeah.
So it was like, I can get attention from this. Yeah.
You could perform, but you couldn't become.
I couldn't be the thing that I knew I was. I could express as if I were.
We're talking about drumming, your identity, your escape. You said at the time it was more of an escape.
Yeah, it's the performative aspect.
Yeah, the performative aspect. Yeah. Well, with that, that's something you fell in love with. So high school, all that time frame was pretty much similar, though. You felt that disconnect. You felt that way with your parents and whatnot. Did you have any siblings?
I have one sibling, younger sister.
Okay, you close to her? Or?
Not at all. Like I said, totally
ostracized, huh?
Completely, yeah. They treat me. So in part of the work that I do, I call it like the subconscious block removal, going into purpose work. You find out about kind of generalities of people and how like that's where I learned the phrase like everyone is doing their best.
Yeah.
What they know. And at a certain point, basically I can agree that my father left his soul to agree with my mother so he wouldn't have to deal with her narcissistic personality disorder. And he became what's called a flying monkey, which is like he kind of does her bidding. And I became the villain. And it was always true, but like now it's like whatever, they can't support me because it's always, what can we find about Tycho that's wrong in every way? Like I ask for support and it's like, well, you're judging, it's like nothing ever is the possibility of like, we get you or we love you or we want you to succeed.
Yeah.
this is, we just talked about victimhood and stuff. I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying this to like feel bad for me.
Yeah.
The point is, this is part of my journey.
It's part of the origin. Yeah.
And the thing is, everybody has stuff, and you could say that all trauma comes from parents and maybe grandparents or authority figure, sure. But like it's all, and the reason it's there is because we are here to heal. A human being is here to heal. So like the healing journey is what makes it possible to offer to others what you've healed.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I've done. I've put two things that I've learned and have healed me, fitness and this mental work, I call it mind muscle, together. And I made a modality.
Yeah.
And that helps people and gives them, I call it fast fitness that lasts.
I love that, man. It's interesting you talking about this because, my childhood is a lot different, and my parents, I've got trauma from childhood from different circumstances, but I wouldn't say a lot from them. And today they're like, they've known the struggle and everything. And they're like, keep going. We're proud of you. We love you. It's just constantly that way. And I will say that there's been issues in the past from like boundaries, but my wife and I stood those firm and, we just gave it time and just loved unconditionally. And like things circle back around and they're better than they were. Right. But so there's been things to work through, and that's part of the healing journey for everybody as a whole. Yeah. But it's just been totally different, and it kind of breaks my heart, like obviously you're where you're at now, but I don't think, anybody should be ostracized from their family. That's just my personal belief. But, I could sit here and say a lot of things should be this way, should have been that way. But the path is the way it is for a reason. You are where you are now for a reason. And there's no other way to look at it, because if you wonder about the what ifs or what should have been, then you're not going to get anywhere. Right. And
they talk a long time about almost nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I'll never forget, my ayahuasca experience wasn't the greatest, but I will say at the end of the night, I had a conversation with this guy and we were talking about trauma, and he was like, show your shadows compassion. And so like the things that are your shadows, the things you've been through, like look at them through a lens of compassion, and you can actually, that helps you move forward from it.
So I'll step on that for a second, because that's a great place to go. Being in touch and being good with your shadow. So I've actually done some work, a lot of work with actually like my heart energy, not physical heart, but heart as an experience. Yeah. It's like, dropping into your heart is like obvious cliche, right? So one thing that helps when it comes to something as abstract as like being ostracized or, having an experience where, you've been pushed away, is that is an experience you found, if it's from your family, as a way of being loved. Yeah. So then you search for it. So part of my healing journey has been, I like being ostracized. Oh. Because that makes me feel, well, Tycho is Atlas. Tycho takes care of the world. The world's on his shoulders. Look at Tycho being alone and still accomplishing.
Oh, you can almost like embrace that as kind of like an identity.
An identity, but also a way of feeling love and feeling like it makes sense. Like I know from knowing you as much as I do, like you've experienced like the world's on my shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
And that happens to a lot of, especially men, I think, because we believe that that is a thing that should happen. And then we choose it. Yeah. And then we choose it again. And then we're like burning ourselves out because we're going to bed at like 11, waking up at 3. I wake up, I work out, then I do my work, then I work some more. It's like, look at me. And then
it's like we subconsciously manifest that.
Exactly. It's identity. It's a personality.
It's interesting you say that, because I just was having this discussion with myself on the way here this morning about my brand, Relentless Pursuit. It's been a relentless, I told you that. Mm-hmm. And for the longest time, it's been Relentless Pursuit. It's supposed to be like overcoming these adversities in business and all these things. And it's just like, I made a decision today. It's like, I want it to be something else. Like I've faced a lot in the 7 years of business, but I want the Relentless Pursuit to be like pouring into other people now. I want to make a shift. I want things to shift away from that constant, like hitting a wall. You know what I'm saying? Just looking at my brand in a different light. And it's still Relentless Pursuit.
It's still relentless. And the thing is, like, Relentless was running into a wall, finally a wall breaks. as opposed to Relentless pouring into people where your energy is actually seen tangibly working.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I think that a lot of, us, let's call it like hyperachieving men do, and we have to get through.
Yeah.
And it makes us make sense of things like, oh, culture, it's hard to succeed in a capitalist culture such as America. So I should be running into a wall and losing all my finances, and right? And that's not necessarily true.
Yeah. There's something to be said about that.
Right.
that season of the journey, but it shouldn't be the entire journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you will break.
Yeah.
And then not move.
It can kill you.
Literally.
I mean, a few years ago, I ended up in the hospital. I was having nosebleeds. I filled up a whole diaper, and like, I was like, and one morning I woke up, I couldn't see straight, and I drove myself to the VA. They were like, we need to get you on medication now, because I put myself there. I can be fit and all these things and eat well, but those walls can force you to literally kill yourself.
Yes. And that sometimes in the great scheme of things, you could say that's actually necessary to learn from. Like, he pushed himself into the ground and died at 35. Like, look at people like, C.T. Fletcher, right? Did the work he did, became Mr., competitive, did all this work, but had 4 heart attacks, still alive.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I don't want to have any heart attacks. Let's try to avoid that. So, but that took me like really diving into internally and working on myself and how to overcome and look at things. And it all comes down to mindset too, with that. But, moving forward in your journey, what would you say was the next step after, grade school, once you like stepped away from the family unit?
The next step was moving as far away from the family as possible. I went to the West Coast to go to school. I actually applied to 12 colleges and was like, I got to just get as far away as possible. So I went to LA and ended up studying religion and theater.
Yeah.
And that kind of got me into like, more of the performative work and like learning about what I didn't know, because I grew up an atheist, like actively just work and there is no God, just like go for it.
Was your family like atheist too?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I grew up from them.
Yeah.
And then being like, there's something more, I don't feel connected. Why is this? What's the connection to me, but something? And then studying religion and was like, there's definitely something more. And at that point, I attached most to Buddhism because I was like, this is a great self-pursuit. And
I know
was
some
like,
people that very similar journeys that a couple of people that have the first thing they were led to was Buddhism.
Yeah, because one thing I think Buddhism is good about is that it doesn't make you have to have dogma immediately. It's like, just sit and be clear.
Yeah.
And the point is clarity.
Yeah.
The point is not believing in a certain doctrine. But there is definitely dogma in Buddhism too, just like every culture is usurped. Anyway, so that's where I went, and it still didn't heal me. Like, I wasn't like myself yet. And through college and through out of college, and I mean, I wouldn't say that I really found myself for like 3.5 decades.
Yeah.
I wasn't, I mean, we're all finding ourselves, but I mean, like, I was not there. And you can imagine like the container growing up of being constantly guilty and being told no matter what I did wasn't enough, no matter what I was, like, fights with my sister was like, literally I was dressed down as the bad older man, no matter how old I was. And siblings have to fight.
Yeah.
Right. And it was never like, it's okay, guys. It was like, Tycho, you're bad. Apologize to her. Separated. And that's why we don't have a relationship, because her subconscious says, what's his problem? I don't want to be around him.
Yeah.
Even though consciously she's like, wait, he's not that bad, or he's not bad at all, or wait, but she hasn't.
And also probably forced you to walk on eggshells around her. Always. In that relationship at all times. And that's not healthy either.
Yeah. And even if I did, it was still not enough. Yeah. Like, that's how weird it got. And I understand it. And it's, we could say it's still not okay, but it just is an experience that I grew up from. And now, part of like the stoicism you see in me is like, I have definitely been taken advantage of when I've just been like outwardly expressive, like, and then people don't take me seriously.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of energy and I have a lot of, I love I love expansiveness, like music. Like I'm the guy who's like they're looking at me dancing because I'm like everywhere,
Yeah.
And then like I found that when I harness that energy, that I get more connection with people and myself, most especially, and it becomes, I can go somewhere, I can lead from a place of
100%
compassion.
And not to harp on this, but I found that, I don't knocking people for being atheists, but I feel like lack of spirituality in a household has a massive influence on I guess more of the loving connection in a place. Does that make sense?
So
I feel like spirituality does teach things, even, traditional religion, in the South, just to say you go to Baptist church. Like, I think there are things to learn from that that do impact the family unit in a positive way. I think there's a lot that impacts it in a negative way, but I think there is value to it. So I think like just the absence of spirituality in general, for me, I don't know, it eliminates something. Does that make sense?
Literally, you don't have the community of a church if you are atheist.
Yeah.
And that's something I experienced, was like, where is my community?
Yeah.
And that's on its own true. You could say the good thing about atheism is like, nothing's going to save you. It's up to you. Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to succeed more in that regard. But again, you can't do anything totally on your own, because without connection, you're going to maybe go far, but not fast.
Yes.
Anyway, so I think that, when it comes to like atheism and religion, they both have things that help. But the thing that I didn't have growing up atheist was any sense of connection to myself or other.
Yeah.
And that I only pretended it by being performative for so long. Mm. And now I feel like my performative intuition, I've kind of like exhausted it. And it's like, God, I love being myself.
Yeah.
Because that was impossible.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think like, going through college, you worked your way through, what followed after that? And if you could pinpoint like something significant that happened from your time, going through that impacted who you are today. That's really,
So college, I was doing theater and I was doing, studying religion and finding kind of like where I was in the world. One thing I had to push against in theater was that in LA, as you can imagine, or maybe you've experienced, there's a lot of dogma, and like, if you're not in our crew, then we won't accept you no matter how good of an actor you are. Like, just like any culture, but especially Hollywood is like the worst of it. It's like cliquey, nichey, right? There's a lot of nepotism, right?
Yeah, like drink the tea.
Sheens. Yeah, Martin Sheen, Charlie Sheen, right? If you didn't have a father or a mother who was in it, you're not going to get anywhere. Like, how many people do you know in Hollywood that have a parent in Hollywood, right? Anyway.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a part of the crew, and I was like paying full ride in college, and they wouldn't let me get on stage unless I paid $500 and gave them a year. And I was like, screw this. So my buddy and I decided I directed, produced, and acted in a theater play on Hollywood Boulevard across from the Oscars in 2004 at a place called Stella Adler Theater. So that was like part of me harnessing my energy to do what I need to do, even though I'm being pushed against and told, you're not a part of us.
Yeah.
And that definitely rubbed them the wrong way. And, I was never a part of that club. And I tried to pursue theater a little more and was like, these are not my people.
You couldn't sell yourself out in a way.
Oh, yeah. And that's one thing about my life is like one of my biggest values is authenticity. Probably why we get along.
Dude, yes.
Yeah. So like, man, the theater thing, there are very few authentic people. I just read a book, Anthony Hopkins thing, and like, he seems very authentic, and that rubs a lot of people the wrong way because he's so like, has boundaries. Anyway.
There's a few out there that are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of my favorites are the ones that are. Daniel Day-Lewis.
Keanu,
he's funny.
Yeah.
So to answer your question of like, what was the journey? I ended up falling in love with a girl after I was in LA for a while in San Francisco, moved there and kept doing my music, and I was like bartending and doing that thing. And then we broke up, and I was like, I got to push this music thing. So I moved to Austin, Texas for a year.
Okay.
And that was interesting, but the allergies and just the experience there didn't work for me.
Really?
And that was one of my like falling apart moments where my ego of like holding it on, performing was like disintegrating, and it was like, you got to start over.
It's like, who am I?
Who am I? And I broke, and I had to move back to, near Boston and like try to find my way. And I had noticed that my music and drumming got better when I went to the gym. And I was like, well, how can I get to the gym more? Teach it. So then I studied for my certification and moved back to San Francisco to become a trainer. And I was doing that and touring for a year, sleeping 3 hours a night.
Yeah.
And after that year of not sleeping, and people would be like, dude, you got to sleep. I was like, got to choose one. And that was health.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a lot of people choose the latter. So,
yeah,
they're like, oh, health, let's put that on the back burner for a bit.
And a lot of people do that because they haven't been taught or don't believe that health is that important.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, what was your family's opinion, or what did they see when they saw the touring musician, what weren't they seeing?
I don't think my parents and family have ever seen me like, knowing me.
So that's that. Yeah. Pretty cut and dry then.
Yeah. But I would say that, they didn't really give me the whole, you're not doing anything with your life. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, this isn't really going anywhere. And I, have my own instinct, luckily, to be like, I got to do the health thing. And so the health thing took off, and that was 15 years ago. And so it's, through my self-work and putting these two modalities together, mind muscle, body muscle, I've made my own modality, made my own center. And that is a product of me like finding myself and my own health.
Yeah.
And I still play drums pretty much every day.
Yeah.
And I studied opera too. Like music is, I think for me, like I would say music is like the thread that keeps things okay when they're not okay.
Yeah.
It's like I can rely on that as like a cushion.
Yeah.
But I have finally found a woman, my woman. Her name is Regina, and she had a similar experience with family as a woman. So like she was chastised, and being very generalistic here, but like the idea was like she was chastised as a woman and she had to work through that trauma, and I was chastised as a man and I had to work through that trauma, and she was always the bad girl and I was always the bad guy. So like finally I have a person who understands my trauma and how it wasn't obvious, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of times trauma is like, I was beaten physically.
Yeah.
And it's obvious.
Yeah.
And this was very like subtle. Like the thing that I would say that is the most trauma for me is like, it was manipulation after manipulation after manipulation. Like just ground me down to the point where 2016, 5 years into this work, I was just like, I've had it. I don't want this life anymore.
Yeah.
And that was a whole nother thing.
Is that when, because I know at some point you lost a girlfriend, you lost the band. Was that in Austin or?
So that was right when I went to Austin, was right before that. So in like a week, I lost my job, band, and then girlfriend. And I was like, I need to change. Went to Austin.
What do you think, looking back, what do you think died during that season within yourself?
I was floating in the breeze. You know that whole frenetic energy thing I was talking about? I was like performing, and that was a moment of like the universe telling me like, stop performing, be yourself.
Yeah.
And so I landed on health and offering health to others. And that was when it started.
And so, and you were doing that, and again, you were picking that up pretty heavily back in San Francisco.
That's where I moved to start it.
Okay.
Yeah, I learned, I studied it and decided it was happening when I moved back to, my family back in Boston to like study and get that work going, and then move back. And I actually had a band that I was moving back to. And then I started with a band, and I started with 2 training gigs. And it was like for a year I was sleeping 3 hours a night, just like going.
And that first realization of like this was kind of becoming your purpose was realizing that it made you you drummed better because of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool how those connected.
Yeah, exactly. And like the element, like I've always had this thing in the back of my head, which is like, why aren't I happy?
Yeah.
Why I perform happy, but it's not really me.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that about? And even, like this is just part of the weird manipulations I grew up with. My father would tell me, a lot of people just exist in their life not happy. So you just have to get going not being happy. And like, what's that for a person to be like, oh, I'm just going to not be happy and just like try to succeed? And he would tell me like Winston Churchill would like drink and smoke and like, but he was successful.
You'll often hear people like, not everybody's meant to do great things. And like, maybe not everybody's meant to start a business or this or that, but like, we're all capable of some greatness in some degree. Like, imagine someone saying that about you. Like, oh, you're not meant to do anything great. Like, I don't know. That's where I get to the whole, like, the potential in people. Like, we all are capable of something great, in some capacity. We just have to find that, right?
Totally. And I think that it's one thing, for example, that I totally disagree with is like, we're all meant to do great things. Every single one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are meant to do great things quietly, like working at a gas station and being a wonderful gas station attendant, and people just go to the gas station and like, this guy changed my day. He's such a good, and that's
a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, like it's incredible how this guy, I love going to that gas station because of that guy. And if he
Yeah.
hadn't been there, he wouldn't have the same effect.
Yes.
And then there are people who are like, my mentors and my teachers who I'm just like, these people are phenomenal doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Like one of my first mentors that got me on the momentum of like self-happiness was Paul Chek.
Okay.
And like he had, at one time in his career, he had $100,000 a month in overhead.
Good God. I thought I had a lot at one point.
Right. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing that his experience and his capacity was that way. And he can do that. And then he created an institute.
Yeah.
And he's actually created like a educational modality now. Like he's kind of created a new kind of school, kind of like Waldorf, like through fitness.
Really cool.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, back to your point is, greatness. There's a lot of different versions of what greatness is.
Yeah.
At the end of plain and simple.
And you know it for yourself.
Yeah.
This is the problem with like dogma is it tries to tell people based on being comfortable, if you do what I do, you'll be okay.
There's nothing great about that.
No, there isn't. It can be great sometimes, like, oh, it happened to be for me. But telling somebody that and then having them do that and like grinding them into like that little mold never works.
Yeah. Often you had spoken about like the little things over time that kind of created you and your identity for a time frame, right? I wrote a piece about years ago coming out of a relationship, and it was about, over time you allow someone to plant seeds. Like those subtle traumas is like little seeds that are planted, and in time that's like, it grows up and it's like a jungle, right? And so you're walking through this jungle, you're just like, shit, man, there's no light. I'm just like, there's snakes coming at me, all kinds of shit. And you feel like this is just life. And then one day you get up and you climb the tree. I think about The Hobbit when Bilbo, they're in the forest and he climbs up. They're all tripping out and their dwarves are like all loopy. He climbs up and he's just like, and he just sees the sun. He sees the mountain and stuff. Like he sees their goal, right? And it just gives him a breath of fresh air. And that's kind of how I looked at it. It was just like, man, there's like a whole fresh patch of land over there, or like there's a whole new life in front of me. And then I was just like a wildfire, man. I just had to set it ablaze, within myself. And from that comes fresh soil for you to plant new seeds, but we allow a lot of people to do those for us, to plant those seeds when it all comes from within.
Well, that's what we were talking about. Freedom.
Yeah.
Is like most people don't actually really want full freedom because it means full accountability.
They see that fresh plot of land and they're like, wait, where do I start?
Exactly. Like having that blank sheet of paper to write anything is often the scariest assignment in school.
Yeah.
Instead of write this for 6 pages. Oh, it's tough, but I can do it.
Yeah. But
you can, whatever.
You can always rework it.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be final either.
And people also don't know that, right? Perfectionism, which I've experienced a lot of, is a compensation for distaste of one's own experience. Trying to be perfect means if I'm perfect, then I'll be accepted.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Now, striving for perfection is great because that journey is like I'm doing my best and it's accountability.
Yeah.
But not accepting yourself until you're perfect, you've missed all that time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's something I like to talk about, striving for perfection. And a lot of people talk against that too. And it's like, well, that's the point though, recognizing the wins and growing from that and being present within it, but also striving for the highest mark you can to push yourself forward.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people say like, don't strive for perfection because then they don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, well, if they don't, then I can stay comfortable here.
And how many cultural things do you see now in our capitalist society that are like trying to give you the hack now before you even do the work of like, your business should be running itself. Like, I've been doing this for a month.
Oh yeah. Most businesses try to solve one problem at a time. These guys built something different. Nashville Fit, Bodywell, and B2 Wellness Suites. 3 brands operating as one ecosystem. Community, collaboration, and wellness all under one roof. Nashville Fit runs a results-driven media network built for businesses at every level. Whether you're trying to grow your brand, sharpen your performance, or get back on track, this is where expert coaching meets real accountability. Bodywell is your starting point for event staffing. Fitness, massage, wellness experiences brought directly to your corporation, your big event, your race. Whatever you're running, they show up ready. And B2 Wellness Suites is a collective of health and wellness professionals, each with their own specialty, all working towards one goal, helping you feel your best in a co-working environment that's relaxing to be in. Here's what makes it work. It's not just 3 separate businesses doing their own thing. Every piece is built to support the others. Advertising, coaching, accountability, wellness, all connected so you don't have to figure it out alone. If you're ready for a smarter, more complete approach, check out Nashville Fit, Bodywell, and B2 Wellness Suites. Links are in the description below. One thing I had to recognize recently is like I got like hit with depression like when we first moved onto some land, and I was like, why am I just lost it, dude. I was crying. And I realized like I'm really good at understanding and talking about the shit. I'm like, I can pinpoint what it is and talk about it. But then working on it a lot of times has been my downfall.
That's so
I got hit with like
true.
The reality a month and a half ago of like, like, holy shit, all these things I've talked about that I can understand, I have not worked on. And so it started like, okay, I got to start back from square one and work on these fucking things. It's, you get what I'm saying?
Have you seen Good Will Hunting?
Oh, a long time.
Remember when Robin Williams takes Will to his bench and has that talk?
Vaguely.
He's like, you're the guy who can read books and books and books and talk about how the Eiffel Tower was built in this time and what it did for French culture, and you can talk about love and how all these things in love are so helpful and what you've learned about it, but you haven't felt love. You don't know what it's like to be heartbroken. You don't know what it's like to have traveled and had your wallet stolen in another country.
Man,
right? So it's like the learning about it is not the same as being about it.
There's a lot to be said. Like, knowledge is important for sure. Helps you understand things, but at the same time, the most value comes from experiencing things. That's how you truly are an expert in whatever you're talking about, right? And that could be different than what someone else is experiencing. But so you know, I believe in being like a little bit of a nerd, but then just because you know all these things from books doesn't mean you know shit.
Exactly.
You feel me?
I like being a lot of a nerd.
Yeah.
And then being like, and I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, and that's and being humble like that too, like working to understand things, but also being able to say, I still not clueless, but I still don't know.
Yeah. And, of course we can still know, but the problem is when we say, I know, and you don't, all of a sudden we've set up this container where you're looking down and the person has to look up to even exist.
Yes. And it goes back to what I was talking about before the cameras come on, is like communicating to people you love in a way that's not like, I know and you don't. It can be misread pretty quickly.
Especially with family.
Because
there's so much energy there.
A lot of energy, yeah. There's a lot of things built up that you just don't see.
Yeah, and you haven't talked about.
Yeah, exactly. So there's work to be done. Okay, so we were talking about, damn it. It's hard I lose track because we end up having, guys, we talk for 20 minutes off camera. And so that takes me elsewhere. You seem like you probably remember right where we got off though.
Yeah, we were talking about how I was in Austin, Texas doing music and how all that work that I'd done, what did it kill in my life?
Oh yeah.
Get through the experience and into my coaching.
Yes. And so that leads me with this. Why teaching? Why coaching people?
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is that I've always been looking for that person in my life who was really there for me, who was like my mentor, who had my back, who was like an elder. So why coaching? Because I want to be there for others.
Yeah.
That's my first thought. My second thought is because I know that my intention is really good, and I know that there's a lot of bad intention out there, and I want to change that.
Yeah.
So part of living in Nashville is like, this is the healthcare city of the country, but what we as nerds know is that healthcare means sick care, and they're pushing pharmaceutical stuff. And it's not about health, it's about a system which keeps you sick and dying. And I want to be health, where I'm actually getting people to know themselves and be happy and live their purpose.
Yes. There's and I was going to say this off camera because a lot of you said aligns with my friend. I got a friend, her name's Hannah. She owns a place called Intentional Wellness in Brentwood, but she does like Evox therapy. Right now I'm going to her every couple of weeks. We're doing mapping sessions. So she does a lot of that kind of work. So I feel like you'd be interested. You're into all this stuff because
I use the word map a lot. That's a good word.
Because she said it. I can't quote her perfectly. So, but she said, like we blame all these other things for cancer. And she's like, well, a lot of that stuff can be fixed by releasing certain traumas and like working on your internal self to like avoid getting cancer. Like we blame all these external circumstances when in reality, like the internal stuff is what's going to help our physical health and help us live longer, better lives too. And I'm sure there are things out there that are destructive to us physiologically, but yeah, I love where she's at and I love what she does. So I need to get you connected to go check her out and do some work there.
And it brings up the age-old question of nature versus nurture, or both. Because obviously external things like plastics and bad water and pollution affect us negatively and give us cancer. Also, being unhappy and not living your life will give you cancer.
Will increase the likeliness for sure. Yes. So you found that in coaching. What did it start? Did you know it was your purpose at first, or was it something that you were just kind of interested in?
No, it was definitely not
curiosity.
It was not like I had landed. It was like, I'm doing this because it helped me be a better drummer, and I want to teach what helped me.
Okay.
And then I get a certification, and then I can teach it by being in the gym and teaching it.
Okay.
But it grew because of what I put into it and what I learned. So like we were just talking about being a nerd. Like I love to learn because learning makes it possible to affect better.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, if you don't know, you can't help what you don't know.
Exactly.
If you know a lot, you might know some things that might be wrong, but like if 9 out of 10 things you've learned are helpful, that's better than only learning one and knowing one, even if the one thing is great, because 8 other things can give you like a back and forth. And like, you know, I'm never going to tell somebody that eating a Big Mac is a great way to get fit, but C.T. Fletcher, we brought him up. It's like he made gains and did more things physically than other people living on Big Macs.
Yeah.
So the point is, I'm not going to tell somebody to live on a Big Mac, but I am going to say it has worked. And if somebody, for example, is like, you know, in fitness, if they're like, I like to drink, my first inclination is not to tell them not to drink. Yeah. My first inclination is how can we work it manageably and authentically?
Really? Because I know some trainers that will not train people that drink alcohol at all. Dogma
is a bitch.
Yeah.
So any dogma is a bitch. Even if it's meant to be healthy, like you don't do substances, but you do nicotine.
Yeah.
Okay. If you had no substances, it'd be weird. It's like we're not human, right? Like the point is to be imperfect.
Yeah.
Not to strive for imperfection, but to be a human.
Well, it's funny, but it's interesting you say that, because a lot of people love to discuss certain dogmas, certain things they're very rigid on. Well, if you drink, then you can't do this.
Right.
But then if they were to peel back the layers in their life, they're falling short somewhere within that structure. So the whole foundation is faulty. Like
hypocritical.
It's hypocritical. Like you can't speak on this as fact and like this is the way, but then fall short in the same line of things within your own life. Like if you're gonna put it out there that way, then you better be upholding it in every aspect. You know what I'm saying?
Or
at least be honest about it.
Dogmatic about it.
Yes.
Yes. The thing that, like we were talking about comfort, the thing that keeps a person feeling comfortable is when, well, for one thing, when a lot of people agree with them.
Yeah.
Right. So like just being in a church and being a pastor or a minister or a, priest is its own form of comfort. And that's a way of being. But when that person is telling people how to be and they're not being that way and they're chastising them and they're making them feel bad, it's like, is that really helpful? Because it's making them feel like if they're not you, then they're not okay.
Yes. I see that a lot. I talk about my brotherhood. One thing we've talked about is like being honest with each other about everything we go through in life, because we're connected spiritually. So that's going to, whatever you're dealing with or whatever you're hiding is going to affect us all. It's called the web of weird, right? It's all connected. And I love that because you get to see ugly parts of somebody. We've had to work with each other through seasons. We've all fallen short or whatever the case is, but we hold each other accountable to become better and improve, so on and so forth. And so, not to knock people in church, but I often wonder, like, you go to this church with 1,000 people, like, what if you saw these sides of all the people sitting around you? What would you think? Would it be as comfortable sitting next to them?
You mean the imperfect sides?
The imperfect sides.
Right.
Yeah, like you know what you see, but like to get to the level of vulnerability my brothers and I have got, you see sides of people, that are totally different, right? So what if, and I'm sure there's pastors and churches out there like that where they are very vulnerable, but I just wonder, like, what would you think about the person sitting next to you in the aisle if you saw the imperfections?
Exactly. And the joke of like, what if in order to have a speech, you had to be naked, right? That would take all the performative aspect out of it because it's like easy to laugh about, right? We're all imperfect. Look at our imperfect body.
Yeah.
Just even looking at the genitals, like genitals aren't perfect,
yeah.
Right? It's like,
and if it's cold in there, you're
exactly. For a guy, especially. Yeah. So like, one thing I like in the Buddhist world is like some of the things they say. And one thing that is said in the Buddhist world is life is too serious to take it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about anything as being too serious, it loses its sentience or its elastic structure, and that will kill it.
Yeah.
Right. If you can only think one way, then you're going to get mentally sick.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Like when people are like, "Oh, life's not that serious," and then it's just like, well, then they're not doing you know what I'm saying?
So then that's the other side.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
If you're not serious enough, then you're living in spontaneity, and spontaneity will only get you so far.
Mm-hmm.
Where like, artists will say, I don't set up time for doing art. I just do it when the muse wants me to. And it's like, well, then how many pieces have you made in the past month? And they're like, one.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like if you set up 2 hours to do art and it only the muse shows up to you for a minute, that's better than 0 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But at least you were available to it.
Yeah.
In the same way, if you allow yourself to see that there's always other options and ideas, and, having boundaries is important, but being available to other possibilities is a way of growth.
Of course.
It's also a way to have spiritual bypass, right? Like, nothing is true, so I can be saying what I want. Okay, sure. Yeah. But like, that's not going to help if it's just nobody can agree. Like, that's why I like to go to things like morality.
Mm-hmm.
What can we agree on? Or like values? What can we agree on? Because, like one thing that we agree on and we're connecting on is authenticity.
Yeah.
That's a key value for me, one of my 5. And since we agree, we have this heart connection where it's like, this could go on for hours and hours and we'll have to stop because we have to, right? So that's what makes it possible, is like agreeing on a certain morality and value and going from there. And when somebody doesn't agree with my morality or value, often I have to cut them out of my experience.
That's important. And I've talked about that all the time, like, especially as a society, like men or whoever just aligning on like morality rather than like religious labels or political labels, right? Like what's your morality? What's your code there? Like if we just looked at those things, like peel past the surface and focus on that, we could actually impact the world on a greater level. But if we're still focused on like what someone calls himself or what someone looks like from the outside, we're going to be stuck and it's just going to spiral out of control even more so.
And also saying that looks matter.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't want to show up looking, undressed, unkempt, with no deodorant because you're like, well, looks don't matter. It's like, well, but they do, because it also is it's a form of love for others to be like, I'm going to be clean and show you that I care about your experience of me.
Oh, well, that goes exactly in line with when people say like, don't care what anybody else thinks. It's like, yes, don't, but also give a shit, right? There's like 2 sides to don't care what everybody else thinks. There's like one just being like, oh, I can have no deodorant. I can be this. Like, I don't care what everybody thinks, but also caring. You get what I'm saying? Like
interdependence,
not caring what people think about you
as opposed to codependent.
Exactly.
Interdependence, codependence. We're all interdependent, but codependence gets bad real quick.
Exactly. Like I got my whole head tattooed. I look how I do. I got definitely an extreme look, right? But I understand that. But I also understand like, well, what's important is how I hold myself and, how I present myself to other people. Like that's going to make the difference right there.
And in different contexts, different presentations, even though we're still authentic, like we're not going to swear in a place like church.
Yeah.
But we're going to swear on the podcast.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we're not swearing people. We like to swear. For me, swearing often makes my point a little bit better. It gives emphasis, or it's the right word.
It delivers passion. To me it does. Like when I'm emphasizing certain things, I will curse just because it hits a certain way.
Right.
You obviously said you were growing fast, correct? And like with your business when you started training people or coaching?
Yes. I jumped in head first. I did 2 training jobs at once to start. One was at the Y, one was at a private training gym.
Okay.
And I moved from there. And it was always learning too.
Were you always achieving?
Totally. I was always trying to get, to the next, like big milestone of like a paycheck, of number of clients. Yeah. I'm a perfectionist.
So my question is to you, when did achieving stop being enough?
Well, I would say I probably like 5 years into it, 2016, when I kind of was just like done with life. It was like a reset. So I would say 5 years in was like, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for performance.
Yeah. When did it stop becoming about like the physical change and more about the people, the individual, I guess you could say? Probably
was about then when I found how much it mattered to be me as opposed to present me. Mm-hmm. So like 5-6 years in, so I was basically finding out how important it was to be myself and to be happy and to experience this as like my thing as opposed to a thing I do.
Yeah.
Like I'm enjoying this because it helps me and helps others.
So this kind of shift, and at that time it became more about purpose.
Yeah, I would say the word purpose wasn't really in my daily, dialogue or conversation. It was more about like happiness.
Okay. And like you were passionate about it, so obviously passion brings joy, right?
Yeah, although I would say, I mean, one thing we're doing well here is go on tangents, and then we bring it back, and it's great.
Yeah, so I got this.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that it wasn't passion yet either. It was about being happy and helping others be happy. The passion didn't really kick in until I kind of realized that I was kind of doing my own thing, and then I created my own modality. And that was like, wow, now I am in passion project mode.
So what was that shift like? Like, what did it take for you to get there?
Trial and error, but also like losing myself. So let's say 5 years in, I was like, I'm sick of this life. I'm sick of all of it.
You're still in San Francisco, right?
Yeah, I'm still in San Francisco, finding out that like, it's not feeding me. Right. And then a year into that, finding out like I need to find myself and then find out how I can help myself and help others.
Okay.
And then it was kind of like good for another couple years. Plant medicine helped me find myself more.
Yeah.
And then getting into things like, the extra spiritual aspects. So like Buddhism. And I thought about bringing like Buddhism and like my meditation practice into coaching.
Yeah.
But I was like, you can't sit and meditate and then be like, let's go work out now.
Yeah.
So it wasn't practical. And then when I found this work and I was doing this healing work on myself, which I would say this mind muscle work that's been around for 50 years, I was doing for about like 3 or 4 years for myself before I even considered implementing it. And now I've been implementing this in my work and my own modality for 2 years.
Okay.
So this is like when it hit, when I was like, there it is. And now I need it for my passion project. The reason that happened was because fitness, I have found in our culture, has lost a lot of its heart. This mind muscle subconscious clearing work doesn't have much health and fitness in it. People sit and talk.
Yeah.
It's question answer. So combining those was like bring the health into that and bringing the heart into fitness. That's where this coalesced and became the inner core gains that I always knew it could be.
Interesting. Yeah, because, you don't see the heart base in a lot of stuff that's like broadcasted.
It's about like discipline, which means like wake up at like 3, get your 2-hour workout in, then do a meditation, then do a cold plunge, and then you've had a whole day by 8 a.m. and look at me, I'm successful.
I hate that. Your lives are obviously not the same as everybody else's. We can talk about that all day, like the whole everybody's got the same 24 hours. We all got 24 hours, but they're not the same.
Right.
Like some people are highly family focused. And, you probably see this a lot too, working with men. I hate when a lot of men get attacked for being overweight and say they're a very successful businessman and they got a family and stuff. I say, and they're just out of shape physically. Well, that's because they're putting everybody else and everything else before themselves. And I say there's a lot of nobility in that.
Totally.
But like men do, like even with our mental health, we put ourselves last. I put my family first in most things, but I'm no good for them if I don't take care of myself, right? And so connecting the heart to it, because you probably see that all the time.
All the time. I mean, my bullseye avatar client is the client who is, and this is my tagline, I don't know if you've heard Story Brand, but this is where I built it.
Okay.
He's Donald Miller. He's a local. Successful in your business, but just can't land the fitness. Fast fitness that lasts.
I like that.
That's my tagline. And so that's what I mean. So it's a person who has been really successful in their business. They've tried doing the work. It just hasn't landed. Oh, they've just gotten injured. Oh, and I know that most of the time that's a mental thing because the subconscious pulls on you.
Yeah.
So I'll just ask you this, Joe. Do you know of your waking life, do you know what the scientific truth is about what percentage is actually conscious as opposed to sub and unconscious? What percentage it is?
No, I do not.
So sleeping, you're all subconscious, unconscious. That's why dreaming happens, right? You're in there. But waking, conscious is like I'm Tycho. I'm going to wake up and make sure that I'm here to see Joe at 9 a.m. and I'm going to do, right?
Yeah.
Subconscious is like you were told that you weren't good enough. Subconscious is like you should wake up at 5 because that's discipline. Subconscious is like these things we don't think about that guide our experience. So you probably heard that guides a lot of our life, right?
That has guided a lot of mine.
Yeah. So you want to guess what percentage is actually conscious?
Of the entire day?
Of the waking
outside
life.
Of sleeping, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 20%.
Perfect. 3 to 5.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So you can imagine why people are just exhausted. They're trying to do it all.
Yeah.
But why is it so hard? Well, really, it's so hard because your subconscious and unconscious are pulling at you. Pulling. It's not your fault, but they're pulling. You know, somebody who grows up in a rich household that money just flows.
Yeah.
They don't really have a problem with money when they live their life. They have a problem with other things.
Yes. Because
money wasn't a problem. So subconsciously, money isn't a problem.
So subconsciously, they'll create more problems, other problems.
Well, yes, it's not about making them happen, but about that they're there.
Yeah.
Subconscious has them there, right? So like somebody who grew up in a fit household, fitness isn't really a problem for them. They can usually get fit well. The thing is that the reptilian brain wants to keep you safe, and safety is always the quickest thing to get. So like your reptilian brain actually wants you to like sit on a couch and watch TV because that is safe and you don't die.
So like the ego.
It's totally, you could say the ego, but the ego is a tricky thing. So that's where you get into like super conscious, subconscious, ego, id, right?
Yeah.
The ego and let's say soul are always like balancing each other out, right? Without an ego, you can't pinpoint what you're going for. So ego is actually a driving force.
Yeah.
Reptilian brain is just a part of one of your 3 brains that keeps you safe. It keeps you from getting attacked and killed by a lion. So it is telling you to be safe as quickly as possible. It's why drug addictions are so hard to overcome. They were actually livable. You didn't die from them. So why subconsciously would you stop doing the drug?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I do and producing the addiction show. It is like it's a tool that gives you control at first, right? You go through these traumas. I mean, I've heard some of these journeys and I'm like, man, it crushes me hearing what people have been through. But it's like, in a way, it's like no wonder they got hooked on something, but they get onto it because it gives them control over what they're feeling or those traumas, right?
And that's a dopamine kick too.
Yeah. And ultimately, though, it ends up controlling them.
Right.
So at first, you know, it's like they climb up in the ship and they're steering. Well, then they just put it on like Super Cruise or whatever, and it's flying all over the place at some point, you know? So why would you want to like step away from it once it's gotten that far?
Yeah, and your reptilian brain says you don't want to because it kept you alive.
What do you say? What do you mean when you say reptilian brain?
Yeah. So the reptilian brain is thinking of yourself as a reptile. It is one of your 3 brains. It is the brain that keeps you alive.
Okay.
It is the thing that puts you into fight or flight to run away from a predator. It's the thing that keeps you a reptile to be alive. That's simple.
I like how you put that.
It's a thing that makes you not die.
Okay.
That's simple. And it's gotten confusing because in this culture, we don't have lions and tigers because we have houses, because we have cars, because we have guns. Like we don't really have those things to worry about. What we do worry about now is like mental health.
Yeah.
That's a tiger. It kills people.
Yeah. It's
right?
It's a completely different type of warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the reptilian brain is saying, how can I stay alive? Not how can I thrive?
And sometimes you gotta turn that reptilian brain off.
So that, well, actually, this is where words matter. You don't want to turn it off because then you will stand in front of a car that's driving 60 miles an hour and die.
Yeah.
What you do want to do is you want to work it sustainably and healthfully.
You were talking about the coaching, getting into that and like it becoming more.
Yes, purpose, happiness. Okay. So at that time, when I put these two modalities together, that became very much purpose oriented. And that was the moment that I realized that it was about landing people in their purpose to have their fitness goals.
Yeah.
So I think of this as embodying a purpose with a fitness goal.
Okay.
Because a lot of times when people talk about purpose, well, you can't see that. You can be like, I'm doing this and that's my purpose, but purpose is still very like abstract.
Yes.
So when I say, cool, we're doing that, and your fitness goal is leading that, it's like, what are you wanting? What do you want to see? I want to see a 6-pack, tight round booty, bigger shoulders. Then you see that and you're leading your purpose. So it's like, embodied.
Yeah. What would you say? Like, you said purpose being abstract. So what is your perspective on purpose? Because I have mine. I'm just curious. Like, is it a thing that you do? Like you find this one purpose, or do you think it's broader than that?
For me, I think it can definitely be broad, but my purpose as I see it right now is living a life where I can be the catalyst to others living their purpose through fitness or through my speaking work. And then also allowing my family to live their best life and be happy.
Yeah.
Because the point of purpose is not to make others into something that they're not.
Yeah. I like that, because for me, like, purpose is almost the same thing as alignment, right? Like, I look at my daughter and my wife, I'm like, that's my purpose. But I also look at the work I do and I'm like, that's purpose, right? So I find it in different things, but it all falls into one place, right? And then that's alignment, ultimately. So, because I only brought that up because a lot of people were trying to find like this purpose, like this one thing. There's, you know what I'm saying? You probably see it on social media. Like, people are like, oh, what's your purpose? And then you got people that can help them find it. And it's like, it could be this one thing, and it's like, it's bigger than that.
Well, that's the dogma.
Yeah.
That's when somebody finds a thing that they can sell and they say, this is how you do it, period, end of story.
Oh my God. Well, it goes back to what you were saying, but actually before cameras cut off, is you see there's a lot of programs out there that people make money off of, like telling people how to, like, hey, you don't have to struggle. You just sign up for my thing. And like, you can be a multimillionaire, sign up for my, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's not that simple. And plus, like, what's the value in things just being that easy? Like, you got to work through some struggle.
And this is where marketing and sales get anti-human, where they use big words that are clickbait, catch-all words, and people are like, I want that, so they do it, and then they get let down, and then they don't want to believe in things, and it becomes this cycle of like getting churned into a system that doesn't work.
Well, but what about they're also recording this same 60-second video on their yacht and in their Lambo and in front of their big house, and
and they don't own any of that. And it's just a video. And the person who made it was like, why are you doing this? And they're like, because then people will think that I'm selling something that works. And they're like, but it doesn't. They're like, I don't care. It makes money.
But people fall into it. It's the most unauthentic thing.
It's exactly. And there's so much of that you and I are striving to make people want to be authentic, because that's the key, right? It's not about pushing our authenticity. It's about being authentic so that others want to be and live authenticity.
Yeah. It's just it's a more difficult growing journey in that.
Exactly. We live in this authenticity thing. We live a very razor thin line, because not being authentic often means not starting a conversation that's very difficult in the moment when we could let it go.
Yeah.
And we always have to be working that balance and seeing what somebody's intention was, right? Like sometimes somebody will say something that's like really rude, but if we call everybody out on everything that's rude all the time, that's an exhausting lifestyle.
Oh yeah. 110%, man. And, I could go into all these examples, so I'm going to like retract from doing that, but I do want to ask more about the purpose thing since we're on that. And before we move forward, why do so few people, you think, know their purpose, in your opinion?
Because I'll reference it with my work, because subconsciously they've been told that they shouldn't actually live their purpose.
How so?
So let's see. Let's start with parents. We see our parents as we grow up going through all kinds of trauma. The first trauma we have as a child is like, I want a hug from my dad, and he goes off in the moment that I want a hug. We didn't know that he was going to get a cup of coffee and coming back 5 minutes later. We thought it was, he doesn't love me, I don't deserve love. We took that for a ride. And that includes something like, I don't deserve to be happy and live my purpose.
Yeah.
Then it comes into like things like, school, and school says, wake up, come to school at 8 a.m., leave school at 3 p.m., learn this, do this, pass the test and get A's because that's what you're supposed to do. And that's why people are so disenchanted with the school system nowadays, because they're like, how many times has a school system actually helped somebody live their best life?
That's why my daughter's getting homeschooled.
Exactly. Homeschooled, or things like Waldorf or Montessori, or there are many ways that can get there, and people have problems with all kinds of things, right? Homeschooling has its problems. Waldorf has its problems. Of course. Every problem. But the thing is, how can we, and you and I agree, how can we best help somebody live their life?
Yeah.
And so the reason that people don't live their purpose is because they've been taught to regurgitate.
Yeah. And just keep going that way. Do you think purpose can change?
Totally. And I think that as you get more aware of yourself and your heart, and you live through your authenticity, your purpose changes constantly. But I think that there usually is like a general thing. Like my general purpose is to help people live their purpose.
Yeah.
But that's in fitness, that's in speaking, that's in friendship, relationship, that's in, significant other with my fiance, that's in even relationship with my cats. We're going to get a dog soon. Like all these things, I'm not going to help my cats have a purpose like I'm going to help my client have a purpose.
Yeah.
But that's my bigger purpose goal.
Yeah.
So it also can get very like, nuanced, and like you can talk about this forever. Like, is it always different? Is it always the same? The point is North Star. What do you want to do? What feels good doing and helping?
Yeah. And that to me is like, rather than changing, it's just evolution. As you grow, your purpose evolves into something different. But we can see that it's changing. It can throw us back, it can throw us some steps back if it starts to shift, right? Rather than understanding that it's evolving into a place. Does that make sense? Like when I moved out of that building, I was telling you at the beginning, like a year prior to that, I would have looked at that as a failure.
Right.
But then I saw it as a pivot. I said, the purpose is just shifting. So I'm pivoting in a different direction, and I'm going with that rather than letting that screw me up. And I could feel it in my heart because I was doing the work internally in order to see it.
I like to use the word belief because belief is a clear structure that has its own problems.
Yeah.
Right. If you believe that you have to have one purpose, you're going to live your life that way. And you and I can both immediately see that can be problematic.
Yeah.
Also, it can have benefits. If you only do one thing really well, like that's going to do something.
Yeah.
But like you can miss a lot of life.
Oh yeah.
But then if you're also the other side doing all things and never honing in on anything, you're probably going to dissipate into not achieving.
Yes. I mean, and that comes into like, honestly, if you do find something, like getting rid of the things that aren't aligned with the path, like I was trying to, with my business, I was trying to do all this other stuff to pay some bills or make some money, but it was like slowing me down into things that actually like align with what Relentless Pursuit's turning into. So it's making that sacrifice to like, all right, I got to cut this out and this out because it just doesn't benefit what I'm doing as a whole. Right.
And that's why I asked about what's your vision for this.
Yeah.
Because vision is such a clear, tangible way of seeing what's happening.
What do you think happens to people when they ignore their purpose?
What we see in our culture, which is people get burned out, unhappy. They latch on to beliefs that are usually self-degrading. They become often nihilistic, like believing that nothing matters and then don't care. And so like having this feeling of like anhedonia, which is like, I don't care about anything. And so there's either like working constantly and not really going anywhere, or not caring about anything and not going anywhere. And in between is, I think, where most people live, which is like, I'm not sure, but I'm still trying. And this makes money, but I don't really like it. And I have these 10 friends, but I don't like any of them. But at least I have friends, at least I have money, and at least, man, I'm exhausted. Man, I want to start over. Man, this sucks.
Yeah. So that's a lot. Let's just stay right here. Exactly.
Right.
You think, and I'd say that kind of goes into, I agree. I think this, but would you agree that anxiety, depression kind of stem from a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it stems from living other people's lives?
Yes.
Could you see other people taking action that you want to take?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then sometimes that'll, you'll burn those bridges. Someone might tell you that, hey, you need to quit. Like, that's not going anywhere. But like, all I see, because I've had that happen to me, and all I see is them like, well, you didn't keep going. So you want me to quit and get to be where you're at.
Yes. There's a lot of the haters or the critics are the ones who are unfulfilled, and they think that pulling somebody who's doing what they want to do down is going to make them feel better.
Yeah. It's pretty nasty too.
It's pretty nasty.
I'm sure you've run into it as well.
Of course.
Yeah. I've run into it. I'm like, that sucks. I thought you were my friend, but you just see those things, right? And it's important.
And it's also like, if you look in the bigger, we could say like spiritual aspect of that experience, being pulled down or losing a friend because they pulled you down and they weren't helping you, is like, you get to see who you really are.
Yeah.
Like, are they pulling me down, and do I mean it? Because if you don't mean it, you actually might start changing and being like, well, they had a point.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But, that's where knowing yourself and being aligned with your authenticity is so crucial, because then you can live straight ahead instead of getting pulled off.
That's why, there's some things I'm not crazy about what he says, but there's a lot that go. I do value Andy Frisella a lot, because he's just like in a nutshell, one thing he says that I like wholeheartedly believe in. He's like, dude, doesn't matter what anybody else says. Like, believe in yourself at all times. Like, that's the thing it takes to make it to this level, right? Just this relentless belief in yourself and who you are and your path, to where everybody else could be like, nope, that's stupid. And you just keep going. I mean, you look at those people that have gotten to that level, and a lot of them have been exactly through that. So there's something to be said about it.
And you think about the people who are the most socially effective, and they're most often the ones who have been through being alone, being told they're wrong, and being chastised and pulled down, right? The Nelson Mandelas, even the David Goggins, right? These people who like, nope, nope, nope. And they're like, yep, anyway, yep. And then, wow, now everyone wants to do that.
Yeah. It's crazy too. Cause like my thing is authenticity, right? And part of that for my journey is sharing it all as I'm going through it, and obviously I'm not like there yet. Right. But it's going to be cool to get to a certain point and look back, and when it's creating much bigger impact, be like, dude, a lot of people rode this journey out with me along the way and saw it, rather than like, okay, here I am. Now this is what I went through. Like, I guess it's like just bringing people on the ride with me in a way. Like, I don't know. I find so much value in that, but to me, that's just my way of being authentic.
Yeah. And choosing those people, and the ones that fall off weren't meant to be, and that's okay. And it's all one big journey, but it's like, you find out that sometimes for a while you have to do it alone.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get to be lucky enough to have people anyway, even when it's tough. And then you get there, and then you write the book, or you have the speech.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And there's so much more weight to it when you do get there. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some point you said you had a collapse when,
which one?
I don't know. So you obviously in 2016 you were training, right?
Yeah.
You had that shift then.
Yeah.
And then you continued training. You started to find purpose in what you did.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was there anything, I guess, that repeated itself, like any kind of pain something within that would repeat itself until you actually listened to what your purpose was?
Totally. We talked about boundaries.
Yeah.
And I grew up being told, let what people do go.
Yeah.
But be perfect. So this is why I was, I was so fragmented as a human being, was like, let what other people do go, but don't be imperfect ever. Right. So finding out how important it was to hold boundaries strong and tell people off when I needed to, because they weren't being okay to me, was a huge part of asserting my own purpose. And 2016 was a moment when I was like sick of everything, because I realized that I had been having no real boundaries and not being true to myself in any way.
Oh my God.
And that was like, I was done with life, literally.
Not to interrupt you, but it's like when people say, don't burn bridges. And like, I've come to this point in my life, it's like some bridges are meant to be burned.
Right.
You don't want all these bridges having access to you. Right. And so that's kind of what sounds like you had to get to that point to be able to speak boldly enough to where it's okay if this bridge is burned, but it's best for me.
Yeah. And think about all the people who are really good at what they do. And, how many people talk about the journey of being successful is so lonely, because you have to burn bridges, because they're pulling you down, because their energy is negative or draining or, counterproductive in some way. Now, of course, we could talk about nobody's perfect and you have to forgive people. Sure. But you kind of have to know your own threshold and listen to your heart and say, is this person good for me, even though they are being like this?
Yeah.
And it can be true for a certain amount of time and then not true for more time.
Yeah, without a doubt. Do you think with that purpose thing and, with where we're at now, when was the next big shift after 2016 to where, you kind of had a falling apart?
2016, done with life, found myself coming into myself. 2018, found plant medicine, got a lot of lessons from all the plant medicines.
Yeah.
And then I also kind of got more heavily into my Buddhist practice then.
Yeah.
So like meditation and mind clearing. And then I actually went to Bali and did a silent retreat. I went to, Vipassana, which is a 10-day retreat, same year. And then like 2021 is when I chose to do 500 days of 2 hours a day meditation. That was a big deal.
That's huge.
And I did it. And that was also when I stopped drinking.
Okay.
So mind clearing because of my work.
Yeah.
And like offering what I, have and know to help people live their life.
Yeah, for sure.
And then 2022, I went to the jungle to work for 6 weeks with really deep plant medicine, and talking to this world is its own little thing, especially when you're in the jungle.
Yeah.
I got to totally break and be held by 5 maestros, 1 main maestra and 4 maestros under her. And they were all literally telling me they were working on me from my feet up to the top of my head.
Jeez.
And they did. And I noticed, like, the feeling was that my soul came back, and it had been out of me and it came back. There is a book about consciousness called The Ghost in My Brain, about a guy who got TBI from a car accident. And he had the feeling of this thing standing back left of him. And he realized after a long time that it was basically his soul, not in him yet. And it came back, and he didn't feel it anymore when he was back in himself.
That's insane. Where was this at?
That was in Iquitos, in Lima, Peru.
Dang, man.
Yeah, so in the jungle.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
I did ayahuasca in the jungle, but we'll talk about that. I could dive into that story.
Yeah.
But a little bit different than that. That's for sure. I think it depends on the setting where you're at, the people you're with.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking back on it, I just didn't key in on that enough. It was kind of a last minute thing.
Setting.
Yeah. But where I want to start back over the healing journey. So when you started this, were you curious or were you desperate?
Desperate.
Yeah. What did that feel like? You were just like at the end of the road.
Yeah. I was like, why is nothing really making me happy?
And what were you hoping to find there?
Happiness. my happiness, like my sense of self. You know, when people talk about soul retrieval, it's like, that's what it was. My soul wasn't in me. It was around me.
What do you think had stolen your soul?
My belief that what my family and culture had told me was true. That I had to be perfect. I had to let everybody did to me go. I wasn't allowed to speak my truth. I wasn't even allowed to be loud or aggressive. That I was the bad older man for fighting my younger sister. And I was always made to be guilty. Yeah. Always guilty. So like, guilt and shame. Guilt and shame led my life.
Oh, those are like some of the lowest levels to live at too.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the vibrational field.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you think, what would you say, getting your soul back, what did that actually feel like?
I mean, the most obvious thing I can say that like guys will understand is like my libido came back.
Oh, really?
Like literally.
Total depletion of it?
Totally. Yeah. Like just not having a desire to like eat life and then wanting to eat life, procreate,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's such a natural thing.
Exactly. And like for a woman, I think maybe the difference, like to explain it, if I were explaining it to a woman, would be like the feeling of like having my heart back, like I'm home.
Yeah.
Like that. Oh man, finally.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love that. People today, what's something that you've healed? If people looked at you today, they would never guess.
People would never guess that I was completely fragmented and had no happiness for like 35 years.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy. And I have to integrate that still, where it's like I wasn't happy because I was choosing not to be happy, but that was because I was choosing what other people were saying to be true about me. It wasn't true, but I believed it.
So you wouldn't say healing was becoming someone new?
No.
Right?
It was coming back to me.
Yeah.
Finally.
From over 35 years ago.
Oh, man. Well, for 35 years. So about, I would say the journey kind of started like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And then just kind of finding that I matter in a way that I actually deserve success, because it was still a path going from like, fine, I matter, to like success, right? Like people a lot in this culture and anywhere can still exist and be reasonably successful because they're doing somebody else's job and they're making enough money and they have a family and right. But deep down they're like, man, I am not here.
Damn.
That's different than like, oh, I want to eat life. I want to eat, my lady. I want to eat, I want to go wholeheartedly into my work so that like I might not sleep for a few days or weeks very well because I'm so invested in it, right?
Yeah.
Going out of balance is okay.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. And something like that kind of excitement is so worth it too. Like even if you're willing to sacrifice because you are so fired up on life.
Right.
You talk about this healing and I think it got me thinking about it. Like, it's almost like getting hit by that car for me was a spiritual experience. I mean, it was. I remember the vision I had, but that and like it almost brought my soul back in a weird way. Like being at that veil of life and death, there was a lot of things I didn't realize about myself until after that accident. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%.
It's kind of crazy.
So in my spiritual and fitness work, one thing that is said in these worlds is like every injury comes at the moment you're working through something and it's popping it out of you or it's showing you to finally work on it.
Yeah.
So like obviously yours was extreme example.
Yeah.
But I think that there was something that you needed to break to heal. And so it broke you to heal.
Yes.
Like instead of like, a little like itchy, it was like crack, like you said, your hip, your shoulder, your lung, like everything.
All that stuff, right? Yeah, very extreme example, but I do think about that. Like, since then, any kind of injury has forced me to reflect in some way, and I think it's important to highlight that. And a lot of people don't. They're just thinking about how to get through it.
Exactly. And the symptomatic experience of the healing journey in this culture especially is a capitalist structure of like, let's work on the thing that it showed instead of why it got there. Because the thing that it showed can make money because it can show up again and again and again. But the reason, if you get into the reason and you dig deep into like Jungian shadow work, then you're going to not have to heal that thing again because it's not going to show up. Marriage is hard, but if you're working on it, it's easy.
Like, you're willing to grow.
Yeah. Like nobody who has an easy relationship will say that they haven't worked through stuff.
Yes.
And the working through stuff is on its own hard, but it makes the relationship easy.
Well, that's the thing is like, marriage isn't hard as it's supposed to be. Like, it's just this tough thing I deal with all the time. More so like we've had to work through hardship together, but gain value from all of it.
Like it's a sculpture and you're always chipping away to make it better and better.
Yeah. The willingness from both husband and wife to be willing to grow at all times. You don't do personal growth by yourself in a marriage or you're going to grow apart. It's one of the fastest ways to grow separate from them.
I mean, I definitely do. Personal growth without personal growth, you can't have growth together.
Well, exactly. What I'm saying is like, but like your wife, obviously she's overcome a lot of stuff. Or your
fiance. We're almost there.
Yeah. She's been willing to grow as an individual as well, though. So it's like, it's something you almost do together rather than one person's going to do the personal growth and someone else stays in place.
Yeah.
And then this person's way over here and that person's like, nope, I don't even know who you are anymore. And it's like, well, fuck, because you didn't take my hand and do this as a team.
Yeah. And the thing, I think what you're saying is that both entities have to grow.
Yes.
You can't have just one.
Yeah.
And then together.
And that's a true team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Like, again, that discernment's crept in and led me to that. And there's so much value in that shit too, man.
Yeah. Discernment is kind of like the boundaries thing, right? Like if you don't have good discernment with what you need, then you're not going to have good discernment with what is good for you in a person. Yeah. You're not going to have discernment, et cetera. So like honing your own discernment makes everything else better.
Oh, yeah.
But it also can make for difficult conversations.
Yes.
And sometimes breaking apart.
But even the boundaries thing can be tricky.
Of course.
If you get what I'm saying. Because, like, I can sit here and say I'm empathetic towards people. Right. And I really genuinely am. Like, I'll watch clips and, I'll be editing and I'll cry. Like, I feel empathy. I feel deeply for other people. I really focus on deep connection. But like you see it overused in the society as like being an empath. You know what I'm talking about? And it's the same thing with boundaries. It's like it doesn't mean set a boundary on everything because you get offended by everything and you victimize yourself on everything as well, right? It's healthy boundaries.
Yeah, and healthy empathy.
Yeah. I mean,
like unconditional love doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Like we're not talking about like loving somebody for all their flaws. We're talking about unconditional love. In order to have a relationship work, you have to have conditional love.
Yes.
You have to be okay adjusting yourself to be better.
Yes. I didn't marry my wife and be like, well, there's no conditions, like there's a condition when we took that oath.
Right.
Like we're going to be faithful, all these things, we're going to work through it.
Yeah.
Like those are conditions. So it's okay to have those expectations as well. You know what I'm saying? But I do got to ask, the 500 days, why such a deep commitment?
I had done the Vipassana 10-day retreat.
Okay.
And in it, Essen Goenka says, if you can't do 2 hours a day of meditation, then you just have too busy a life. And everybody laughs at that because, like, nobody has 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they don't.
I don't. Yeah, there ain't 2 hours a day I have right now.
Right. So I was like, I'm going to set up my life so that I can to see what it is like and to see what happens through this process. Because I am still battling a lot of trauma scars and I want to clear my head and be the best me that I can be.
Was it 2 hours straight or like separated?
I did exactly 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour at night. So 2 hours a day And that sometimes meant, and this is where it gets like pretty crazy, is like if on a weekday I couldn't finish my 2 hours, sometimes my weekend on a Saturday, I would spend 7 hours sitting on a cushion. Like I had to make up hours. Damn. Right. And so what I did was I was basically creating my own container. And that pulled me away from a lot of people. Like literally I was isolated by being so committed.
Yeah.
But it showed me, for one, that one of my addictive tendencies is withdrawal. So even though you could say on the surface that having this idea is a great idea, it also kind of fed my like, fuck everybody, I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Identity, right? And like, but then I got to see how the process of knowing that helped that resolve itself.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not still doing 2 hours a day because I would rather live life than work to living for life.
Yeah.
Right? But I needed to do that in the time I could, and I had the availability to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna, and then I dedicated myself to it. Right? If I had kids and jobs, no way. Right? In the same way, you know, there are things in life where, like for me right now, building these 2 businesses wouldn't happen if I had kids. So I'm glad that I've waited to have kids because I needed to do this to have the money to make it happen. And like going through trial and error of like 2 businesses is a lot.
Just do what I do, man. Just kind of do it all at once.
That's how it feels.
Yeah.
And then I also don't have kids, so I'm lucky that I actually do have more time, right?
Yeah.
So
that is
like
a good thing. Yeah.
Practicality is necessary.
Sure. Yeah.
Discernment. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's so much value in that. And like your perspective on it too is like, hey, you know, I had the capability to make time for this now, you know, because there's certain things, I mean, I'm not going to say I wish I would have done prior to having a child, you know, because she came at the point she did for a reason. Mm-hmm. And like for her to be in this grind part of the journey and like force me to be present, like force me, because like, dude, it's hard. But like my daughter grounds me in so many ways. So there's so much benefit to her being here and for her this season of the journey. So I do appreciate you being willing to say that because nobody has 2 hours a day to do that. But you restructured your life in order to do so. And that says a lot about, I think, when it comes to working out, training, everything in life, is that a lot of people say they don't have time to do this, this, and this. But it's all about like reorganizing your daily life in order to make time for XYZ.
Well, when somebody says that to me, if we're having a deep conversation where they're vulnerable enough to hear like the tough love thing, I say, it's not that you don't have time, it's that it's not a priority.
Yeah.
And that's true. It's not a priority for most people to set aside 2 hours a day. Yeah. We could all take away sleep and do 2 hours of meditation, but we'd rather sleep. We could all send our child to another house and do the 2 hours of meditation, but most people wouldn't want to do that, right? No. Like there are things we could do to make things happen. Yeah. And like I say to people, don't tell me you don't have time, because when you have to go to the bathroom real bad, you don't say, I don't have time. You go to the bathroom because you have to go to the bathroom.
Piss yourself.
Right. Yeah. And some people will do that, but that's its own answer, right? Yeah. So the point is like you have to have a priority as your thought process, as opposed to the world doesn't give me time. Yeah. Because that's always going to be true. There's always a reason not to do something. For always.
Sure. Were there any significant changes after, like, let's say every 100 days?
Totally.
Did you kind of mark that or journal it?
Not 100 days, but like it was constantly having these moments of like one time I was close to the end of it and I realized that I was being pushed to set hard boundaries with people. Like I had a person in the gym that I was renting from and working at who like had a lot of, let's say, daddy issues, and he was seeing my elevation and trying to pull me down. Mm-hmm. And I was like not setting myself strong enough against him and being like, that's not going to work for me. Yeah. But being like, hey man, like you got to stop. Instead, I should have been like, no.
So you think, do you reflect on things and think maybe you kept your mouth shut in order to like please that relationship at certain times?
To keep the calm waters.
Yeah.
Like there's always, right. You don't have the hard conversation because you don't want to, create drama, but then you start a war in yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So that's something that I had to learn over a long amount of time to find myself and to know that I wanted to create businesses. I had to know who I was and what I wouldn't stand for or stand up to or allow myself to go through, right? Or somebody doing something, like, that's not going to work. Yeah. And a lot of people will, like I was taught, let it go.
Yeah.
But if you keep letting it go, they will step into and through you, literally.
With the meditation, who walked in and who walked out?
Nice.
Came out.
So the 500 days of meditation, 2 hours a day. The guy who went in was just breaking up with the girlfriend at the time, was just stopping drinking by choice, and was still in a withdrawal phase of like trying to think of myself as like separate from the human species.
Yeah.
And when I came out of it, I was very much like, I need to be in this world, and my experience of, being out of that relationship was like, I was sure of it. I was like, I did it. And talking about discernment, my discernment was much more clear. I was much more clear-headed. I was very proud of myself for doing that.
Yeah.
Nobody that I've ever heard of has done something like that.
It takes balls. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I got myself to choose that and then do it myself when no one else would. And like, I can do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Even if it's not normal.
Yeah.
I think that was the big thing, was like, it's up to me. What do I want? It's all choice.
You can do it. You can do it yourself.
And by my choice, even if people don't think it's like a thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, this is my thing to do because I want to.
It's self-trust.
Totally. Yeah. I've definitely built a lot of self-trust out of it.
My mapping session a couple of weeks ago all came down to me trusting myself.
Nice.
I've been looking out externally for these opportunities, this next guest, this next thing.
Yeah.
But it was like, Joe, just trust yourself. And I was like, fuck. Somewhere along the way, I lost that. Yeah. And I think that comes along with a lot of disappointment or things falling short out of nowhere. Like, you start to out of desperation, I don't know, subconsciously I stopped trusting myself along the way somehow.
Well, that's what I mean by the regurgitation in school.
Yeah.
It's telling you to study what they say and repeat back.
Yeah.
Instead of being you.
Yeah. So when you talk about that just made me reflect on that. Yeah. And I think that's very important, man. And you wonder how many people go through life without having that trust in themselves whatsoever.
And they say, like, in many research thing that I saw was like 2019 was like 10% of people think that it's, 5% are living their purpose daily, and 10% know what their purpose is.
Damn.
So it's like 85%. Everybody, well, no, 90 to 95% either don't know it or aren't living it.
Jesus, dude. That's crazy.
And it makes sense, right? Like, look at how frustrated people are, and that's okay. But the thing is, there are ways to heal. And like, I offer my fitness as, we're going to heal your body and your mind together. And you are going to feel this, and I call it like permanent fitness results in half the time, because you're actually going to want to work out now because it's feeding the bigger purpose, which is what we find for you.
That's the goal, right? That's what I always said with clients when I was training. It was just like, I want you to fall in love with this.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's that
falling
simple.
in love with you.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think that people think, for example, that fitness is a thing to do, but they just have so much on their plate, and then they will do the fitness too, and they're like, I can't do this too, and wake up at 5 a.m. and oh my God, right? So they're just adding things to their plate because culture told them that it's a good idea.
Yeah.
And so people, like, I tell people, like, if you do yoga to get fit, don't work with me, do yoga.
Yeah.
If you, like, I'm very much like bodybuilding. Like, I will get very specific muscles, and I will get very specific tangible fat loss, hypertrophy, muscle mass gain, and strength gain, and conditioning gain. It's very specific. Mm-hmm. And I don't do yoga. I don't offer it, right? Yeah. I don't do these things. So it's like, it's a bodybuilding style gym that's very functional.
Yeah.
And if you don't like that, don't work with me.
Yeah, of course. And whatever works for you, you
right.
know, it's not an issue. There's going to be someone else out there that teaches different things, just like you are a lot more specific in what you do. And maybe someone doesn't want to do the internal work. They just want to, like, get jacked. You're not the right guy for that.
Exactly.
So Now something you talked about, you did a darkness retreat.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm super intrigued by this because about a year and a half ago, I found out what that was. Yeah. I started looking into it, and I'm like obsessed with it. Like, I really want to go do a fucking darkness retreat. And it's all about, one, it's not cheap, and two, just like making the time for it, like, because it's going to be a solo trip. So I want to do it in the next couple of years. Let's dive into that. Like, explain what that actually is.
Yeah. So there are two places that I know of.
Oregon?
No, well, I'm not talking about where to go do it.
Okay.
I'm talking about where it comes from. One of them is like in the jungles and in a lot of like Amazon and even Africa. There's a lot of people who grow up in the dark as dark shamans.
Yeah.
That's its own thing. The entryway that I got into this darkness retreat thing was through the Buddhist world.
Yeah.
Where my teacher's teacher had done a lot of darkness retreats.
Like Tibetan monks and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Western Buddhism.
Yeah.
And yes, the guru in the work that I work in, that I've been kind of like bestowed the lineage, is the Western Tibetan version. So like Padmasambhava. It's like sitting in like the Azure Cave. So the ultimate darkness retreat is 49 days because that is considered the time between incarnations. So when you die, if you've had a relatively clean life and death, you die, and for 49 days, your soul finds a new body, and then after 49 days, you are born into another life. That's the essence of like Buddhist darkness. So I wasn't like, I'm going to do 49 days.
That's insane. Yeah.
and then most people are like, well, 3 days is a good start.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I've done 500 days of 2 hours a day meditation. I'm pretty deep in this. I want to get some real healing. So I said to myself, 10 days. And I actually had to push. So I found the place that I could do it in the time frame I could do it, in the place I could do it when I wanted to do it, in the beginning of 2023 in France. And this woman who was offering it was like, 10 days is too long. We don't offer that. And I'm like, I've been doing this work for a while, and I feel like this amount of time is what I need. And she's like, okay. And
hard sell.
Right, it was, I had to sell myself.
Yeah.
I kind of had to tell her like what I'd done, how I've been working, that I have a specific teacher, that he's been bestowed lineages and all this stuff. And yeah, I had to sell myself into 10 days. And basically at the end of it, I can say that she did tell me like, I'm glad you did 10 days.
Yeah.
I actually would say that she wasn't a very good container holder. So I wouldn't suggest the place that I went.
Okay.
It was in France. It was in Saint-Just-de-Vaix, which is near Lyon. And luckily, like, I'd done enough internal work that I could handle not having check-ins. Like, she did not check in.
Oh.
In the beginning, she almost didn't let me do chanting.
So if you're a beginner, then it's like...
Oh, yeah. If you're a beginner, you should do 3 days. If you're a beginner, you could go there. But I would say for most people, do 3 days.
Yeah.
But just in my path, I was ready to do 10. I did 10. And the thing about the length of time is that you get really deeper and deeper into your psyche. And that's why it's dangerous. Because you're going into like darker and darker, and there is no light, and darker. And remember that the light we see is distraction. And part of what makes this light stuff fun is that we can always be like, I have a thought. I don't want to think about that. I'm going to watch TV. I'm going to talk to this person. right? It can be distraction. How many people are having a bad day and they either turn on the TV or drink a beer to numb the thought?
I mean, I've watched studies. I mean, how many people can actually sit in meditation by themselves with light, candles and stuff for 10 minutes?
Exactly.
So much less in complete darkness for
a
day or 2 or 3 or 10.
Yeah.
It's intense, dude. And, and before I ask you a couple more questions, because me going in, like, I want to do it because it's like, and maybe you can attest to this or not, to me, the whole point, it's almost like, why? And I was like, because I want to focus on that inner light. Like, I want to see what I can gain from, like, the light within, because I think that's, to me, the most important thing, and bringing that out. And so, does that make sense? So that's like, I want to see what I can find there.
Intention is everything.
Yeah.
So you're saying nourishing your inner light.
Yes.
And then like the more you can think about that, like, what is my inner light? What do I want to do about that? Why, right? The more clear you can be about your intention, the more the sentience of the darkness will respond in kind.
Yeah. So exactly. And so like more so like focusing on the inner light and having it basically extend to every part of my body, right? Like expanding upon it.
So your whole body's like a light body.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. So that's why I want to go into it.
Nice.
You know, and I don't know, what was your intention going into this?
To find out what I was going to do next in my life. I was at a pivot point.
Yeah.
In the darkness, I learned two things. One, that darkness has sentience and that it responds. And two, that it did respond, and it gave me two basic lessons. One basic lesson that the darkness literally taught to me in words that I heard was, one, you're doing great, keep going. You're doing great, keep going. And two, it's all a choice.
Mm.
And the choice thing was tough for me because I was like, well, you're not telling me what to do.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, if I choose and I have intention, then it will work itself out. And so I'm going to move to New York and totally pursue music. And that's what I decided. And so on January 21st, I realized that I was going to go to New York from Northern California and just pursue music and be a musician. 8 days later, I met my future wife in Northern California. And then we ended up here.
That ain't that wild?
Yeah.
Holy shit, man. So overall, you know, I want to ask you a couple questions about the retreat before we move forward. But overall, what do you think was the ultimate? I mean, that was what came out of the experience, and obviously that's beautiful. But overall, what do you think was the ultimate takeaway?
It is all in you.
Yeah.
We don't have to go anywhere. But the problem is that we all have so much not stuff going on, thoughts, ideas about what we don't know.
Yeah.
That we can't hear it.
Mm.
It's all right there. And since then it's all right there in our heart. That's the key.
It's you know, and that's a difficult thing to do. You know, it's hard to turn that stuff off when you're, especially the more responsibility you have and stuff. Like, it's hard to turn that noise off, man.
Accountability and responsibility are two of the most difficult things to experience, but they're also the most important.
Yeah. I was reading about Bruce Lee, and he was talking about like saying these 5 things to yourself every morning. So I restructured it actually this week, and like 5 things specific to me to say to myself every day with intention. But he also, if you read deeper into it, he did like 7 note cards on himself and like lessons on these note cards he carried around with him. And like he would reflect on that. And so I actually, I've got to get some note cards, but I've got 7 different note cards that I'm going to write out that help me like focus on that stuff. And I think that's important because it kind of, by doing stuff like that, I think that helps turn off that noise as well. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're very focused on the intention of your inner being. And that's one thing I pray to when I go out to the field. You know, I'll do burpees out there and I'll like, you know, pray, I'll do something, do another set, and I'll be like, keep me connected. Mm-hmm. To me, that's like something very important. The crazier the world gets, just keep me connected to what's real.
Yeah.
You know?
For you.
For me. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And so, I don't know, I'm really intrigued, and I have a lot of respect for you going to do that, because it takes a lot for somebody to be willing to just even do the 72-hour retreat, man. Like, when I tell people, they think it's insane. So 10 days is like pretty huge. And I think that's really cool. It says a lot about you and like the work you've done to be able to go do that. What probably scared you the most in that? Because I'm sure there was some scary shit.
It's terrifying. The first thing that happened was I blew out the candle and I was like, 10 days?
Oh,
you're
yeah.
there.
Okay.
But the first thing that happens was I was like, here we go. And I was like, what have I done?
Oh my God.
Just no.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying.
Terrifying. So the first thing that I did literally was I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom just because like I feel like I need to go to the bathroom right now in the dark. I just do something, right? And then I remember my teacher who kind of guided me into getting there was like, the only thing you got to remember when you do this darkness is just don't leave. That's all you got to remember.
Stick it through.
Just don't leave. But he didn't say stick it through or like mentally don't leave. He just said don't leave.
Yeah.
So like that means don't open the door.
Yeah.
So the point is whatever happens, happens. But if you don't leave, you still did it.
that's the whole thing for me is like, I don't really worry about that like leaving part because I already know like I would tear myself apart if I did, like if I was sitting there and I happened to walk out the door, I'd be hit with immediate regret. Like, why the hell did I do that?
Well, that's how I felt about myself too. But when I heard that from a guy who had done lots of darkness and when I like let it settle, it's like, well, then there are lots of possibilities, but it's also just one thing that I don't have to do.
Yeah.
I'm not actually in danger. I'm not actually having to move through all these different levels.
Yeah.
There's nothing I actually have to do. It's just don't leave.
Yeah.
So it kind of took away the edge a little bit, just on account of like, I don't have all this work to do. But when I was like in the moment of like, there goes the candle light, was like, wow, I really want to run.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was sit in lotus position and just sit with the thoughts. And the thoughts were telling me just to think. It's like, here we go. Ah.
That's crazy. Did you feel any kind of like evil presence?
No. I did actually feel 2 times very, very vivid visuals. One of them was I noticed redwood trees are my ally.
Yeah.
So I sat and I saw perfect snow and like redwood trees coming up like in a baseball diamond, so I could like look at them and look away and the diamond wasn't there and it was like here, and I looked this way and the diamond wasn't there and it was here, and redwood trees and snow. And I was sitting in the snow in the redwood trees like, this is amazing. And I could like look away and see the little parts of the bark and like see the snow, and it was real.
Dude, I feel like, I feel like it almost becomes like a psychedelic experience in your mind.
Your brain secretes DMT.
Yeah.
And you know that like it's a very visual drug, but it's in you. So what's happening is that it's just coming out. You're just experiencing it.
Yeah.
And the tendency for a human is to see. So they say that even blind people can see in a certain way. So your body wants to see and it's used to these visuals. So that was one thing that I saw. The other thing that I saw was, you know what the catacombs are in France?
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the catacombs and like they were around me in a perfect circle. And I was noticing like, the little skulls and bones and dirt. And I could look away and look back and it looked the exact same. So it was like very clearly the catacomb. That experience made me think that like I was letting go of my old life, like death, rebirth.
Yes, of course. I love that. That's a very pagan looking thing.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I look at, going into fall equinox, Samhain, right? At the time it's Halloween modern day, but Samhain is that kind of representation of like, killing off intentionally. I'm thinking of like, okay, what dies within me as the season changes, right? The leaves are falling, things are dying, there's death all around. So how do I think about that internally in order to grow come spring, right? And like new things come. It's all cyclical as well.
There are always seasons of life and of season.
Yeah.
Always.
And that's what and not to go on a tangent, but that's what I love about paganism too, is it's very connected with those kinds of thought processes.
Totally.
And nature. And I think
naturalness.
To me, that nature, like things like that is God.
Right.
Right. Like I see God when I go sit at a waterfall for a couple hours on I'm like, dude, this God is flowing all around me.
Yeah. And if you're calm and quiet enough, the plants are talking, the water's there with you. There's no question. It's all the thing that we have been feeling like only we are. No, it's all the same.
It stokes life, man.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, that's a cool experience. So when the time comes, man, you might have to like get me some mentally prep me for it.
Oh, totally.
I'll reach out.
Got you.
Because I know you've been there. So I'm like, all right, man, how do I get prepared for this? Because I'm going in.
And I know, from what I know about you, I feel like there are a lot of things we have in common. And like, so I can tell you like the essence of it is that you don't want to force it. Yeah. We'll talk more, but it's like, it's like about not forcing it. You don't have to do anything.
Well, that goes in line. I had an old friend or acquaintance that like was always trying to push me to do a really heavy mushroom trip. And I was like, dude, I'm not ready for that. Stop trying to push me into that shit.
Yeah. And
then when I went through like that, that breakup with my ex, I went out to the woods and I did like 7-8 grams, and I sat out there by myself. But I did it because that was the time. Like something else came to me. It was like, it's time to dive in, like, and it's intuitive. Like It goes with ayahuasca or anything. Like people say they want to do it. I'm like, just do it when the time comes. Like, don't force yourself into any kind of experience like that, because like you're probably going to have a more adverse result rather than doing the work that you want to.
Dogma about plant medicine is also bad.
Yeah, just let it flow.
Not for everybody.
Not for everybody. Now, okay, we got time in this segment, and then we'll do a quick one. Building inner core gains. We've talked a lot about inner core gains and what you do. You moved to New York.
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
8 days later, I realized I wasn't gonna because my girl showed up.
Oh, okay. All right. So that decision was made, but I'd say because you made that decision, it's almost like everything aligned for you to meet her.
When I came out of the darkness, I was like, I'm moving to New York, definitely. And then 8 days later, I met this woman, and I was like, my plans have changed.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
That's amazing. And so what was, quickly, like, what was it like her coming into your life? I know that deeply impacted you.
Well, the word is very clear. Actually, the word is relief. When I met her, I was just like, oh, wow. Like, finally.
Life is good.
Yeah, like I could breathe for the first time.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you've already done like a lot of work.
A lot of work.
Had she done a lot?
Oh, she still does.
Really?
We were both, like you talk about, you can't just be just one. One thing that we both do a lot is self-work.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't actually, I will say, I don't know your perspective on this, because a lot of people talk about how you need to be healed before you meet the right person.
How is that possible?
Yeah, exactly. Or you need, but like when I met my wife, that's when I started my healing, because I started having anxiety attacks. I almost talked myself out of the relationship. I was like, this is too good to be true. Well, I'm going to bomb it like all these other ones.
That's your subconscious being like, come back to normal.
Yeah. And I credit her a lot. And I brought this up a lot on this show. She's like, Joe, just feel it. She didn't take it personal. Right. She'd done the work not to take it personal.
That's great.
She wasn't like, oh my God, he just thinks I'm like every other girl. She was like, I'm aware that this is things that he isn't healed from. And she's like, just feel it. And she just let me cry and sob and work through shit. And that forced me to start working on healing. Because I was like, before then, I was like, I don't get depressed. I don't get anxiety attacks. Like, that's all, boo-hoo. I did think that way, kind of, it's all within you. You're strong. But no, man, she made me start reflecting on things. And because of that, it set the trajectory for all the growth that came after.
That's fantastic. So, beautiful love. And the thing is, you're not the only person where you finally get what you've been looking for, and then you're upset. Yeah. Because the subconscious and unconscious have been like, we don't want that. We want normal, which is not having it.
Yeah. Sometimes normal's chaos.
Yeah.
People grow up in chaos, and like they bring that into their future relationships. And it's like, no, that doesn't make it necessarily okay. But that's what you're conditioned to be comfortable with.
It feels like love because that's how you grew up in love.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, I had to highlight that, but because it's almost a little bit different. Y'all had already been doing a lot of self-work, and y'all came to each other just the right point in time. But like with me and her, we also did, and like, because I was coming in and I was receptive to her giving me that space, she's been with me on my journey, and mine hers. So it's really cool. And again, we keep working towards growth, just like you and your fiance do too as well. How long? And this was in 2021?
This was 2023.
2023.
So we met January 28th after I'd come back from just a day it was the San Francisco Buddhist Center with the owner of a tea temple. And we had gone to this thing together because we were going to learn what our next step in our life was. And I was officially going to move to New York, and she was officially going to stop working at the tea temple. And we both agreed on that in that day, in that moment. And then I sat down in the tea temple with a friend who's the husband of the girl that's a friend of my now fiance. And we were all talking, and then she shows up, and it was just like, bam. So my point is that, like, in the moment when everything was turning, it was halted and, adjusted.
Yeah.
But it was like the universe was very clear.
That's amazing, man. That's so cool.
Yeah.
How long after that did it come? I mean, obviously you've only been here a couple of years, so not long after that, y'all decided to move to Nashville. So what stoked that decision?
Yeah. So, well, within about like 6 months, I had to move to a new place, and it happened that my now fiance's apartment, she had to renew the lease or get out of it. And so the place that I had rented, the man who had rented it to me ended up being this total manipulator, told me he was going to let me, build the center there. And like, as soon as I started doing it, he was like, nope, can't. And I was like, this is part of our agreement. He's like, nope, illegal, right? Like, what just happened? So, he was even worse than that. But the point is, like, it was like, red flag, this is not happening.
Yeah.
In the same time, she was like having to either renew the lease for like a year or get out. And the landlord ended up being a total bad person too.
Mm-hmm.
So coincidentally, we were both like, I think we have to like move in together. Is that really happening? And I was like, yep. Okay. And then boom. We visited Bonnaroo in 2020. I guess it was 2023.
Okay.
And we were just like, this is a cool, awesome festival. And we loved it and had no intentions of anything other than coming to the festival. And then my aunt and uncle live not too far from us now. And they were like, come visit Nashville. And we came to visit Nashville. And all of a sudden we had another one of those, like, come to your heart moments where it was like, there's a really cool yoga community here. The food is actually organic and getting really healthier and healthier. A lot of water filtration here. This is called the healthcare city of the country, but we both know what that means.
Yeah.
It can change things. And it was like, huh. And then real estate, she works in real estate as well as being a coach and a yogini. And it's like, things just were like, are you feeling what I'm feeling? Oh my God, we're coming to Nashville.
Yes. That's cool.
Yeah. And then so within like a year of knowing each other, we were deciding to move to Nashville and build a family here.
Did you start Intercore Gains before you came here?
Oh, Intercore Gains, well, it started as Tycho PT, but Intercore Gains was basically 5 years into being a coach.
Okay.
And that was when I moved and started renting in a spot to be able to, be my own independent contractor.
So it's stuck.
Yeah, it's stuck. And I was going to change it because of the wording out here and like kind of connecting people. Like source fit is kind of part of it. Like I call my space source fit.
Yeah.
And my modality is Intercore Gains.
Yeah.
But it's Intercore Gains. And I trademarked it actually. So the reason here I told you about the whole food's actually good and getting better. Water's filtered. That's surprising and great and wonderful. The yoga community attracted us. The fact that this is a healthcare city, but that means sick care. So let's ruffle some feathers and make it health. And then when we came here, we started out in East Nashville, but we wanted to live near downtown because downtown felt like it might have the right amount of clients for me and for this work, and then near Brentwood. So we ended up finding our place in Bellevue, where we have two entrances to the house. One goes up to the main, entrance door, and one is to my center.
Yeah.
So I have like a center space with like its own parking and like a long driveway that gets up to that space.
That's cool.
And then also the door is like the other way.
Man, and that's awesome to be able to nail it from home.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And make that your hub.
Yeah. And then the reason the business speaking, besides the fact that it like kind of scales my purpose work, is that like I can get out because like I'm not trying to be a homebody, but like having my spot and having my own energy is so important.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, it all depends on like the intention you built with that space too. Like when I was at my house in Murfreesboro, I hated working from home. I couldn't get anything done.
Yeah.
But if like the girls are like in Smithville or whatever, like I like working from where I'm at now. I get to look out on the land. Like if I don't need to drive to Brentwood, then why drive all the way across town when I can be just as productive there? And like it's just the space and the intention that's poured into like this new chapter. So I can, but I like going out and working too. So I feel you.
Intention is really everything. We kind of keep talking about.
I say that all the time.
Intention.
Is there anything else you want to pinpoint on it though, before we dive into a couple other things?
Yeah. So let me just make it tangible.
Okay.
Because a lot of the question I get about what I say is like, so what does that look like? Okay. So here's what it looks like. The first thing that I do when somebody signs up is an 1.5 hour assessment of physical movement and spinal degrees.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing how a person stands and how they move.
Yeah.
7 primal patterns, and a degree assessment. And that is then enacted in a 6-week program. Every session starts out with half an hour of question answer work. That's where this work comes from. And it's been around for about 50 years. It's been perfected. It's not perfect, but it's been perfected. Yeah. And my teacher is phenomenal. It's all about transformation, and it's very like open work. And I actually incorporate some like, Buddhist, Christ consciousness work into it too. It's very much about finding somebody's map. Yeah. So like we talked about the word map. Mapping, it's like a person, different than what you're talking about with the mapping, but like a person has a map.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
The way that they see the world. Yeah. So the point is that I'm finding out how they talk, how they think, what they want as far as a fitness goal. And then the essence is that I'm finding out what their purpose is so that I can tie through the subconscious their fitness goal to the purpose.
Okay.
And so, for example, I had a guy who was working in insurance, and he was 25 years old, and he was like, I think I want to get bigger. And I was like, okay. So we're starting to like give him hypertrophy work, muscle mass gain. And I'm like, how's it going? He's like, I'm not really doing it that consistently. I'm like, okay. So we got into the work and realized that like what his purpose is, he wants to be able to travel as much as he wants, which means having people work for him, having enough time, having a house, but also being able to have, enough money to be able to move around, and moving around means being mobile and strong. Yeah. So that is actually a strength goal. So in order for him to have this main thing, which is purpose of being able to travel, it's about strength as opposed to hypertrophy.
Okay.
Right? So that's tied. And in that work, he was able to increase his trap bar deadlift 120 pounds, which was a 280% increase. And he was able to do that. And his weight was 187 and he weighed 180. So he's going to be able to move around more with a trap bar deadlift of that heavy.
Yeah, with an increase. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like very particular to the main goal.
That's cool.
Of purpose. And then you can see it because it's about, physicality. So that's an example. Another example is a woman who I'd been working with actually for 10 years. And we had, gone in and out of plateaus, and she, was kind of feeling listless, and we started incorporating this work. And in 6 weeks, she lost 7.9% body fat and 8.6 pounds. Damn. And that's after working together for 10 years. So this stuff works even after you've, done other things.
Yeah.
Right. So those are just 2 examples of like how this stuff really works tangibly, and how it is 6-week programs. As you know, that's like what neurologically you need the system to like do a new system, in 6 weeks. So it's not just that we're talking, but talking is the essence of the mind and body connection, or the subconscious clearing that I call it. And so after 6 weeks, we reassess.
I love that, man. And that's, I think there's a lot of value in how you make that done. It's rather than just getting in the gym and like, let's hit this, and this, and this. There's a much deeper layer to it, to what you do. And I think that falls exactly with what the name's called, inner core. And so like, I feel like we could probably assume why you chose that name, but yeah, go ahead and explain inner core.
Like, exactly. Well, you got it. It's like, I'm the guy who goes on dark retreats and goes to the jungle for 6 weeks, and right, it's about the inside, and also the outside. But what's key about it is that you need it to be tangible. Yeah. This is what I find about like the abstractness of things like, our capital society of like, be mindful, be present. What does that mean? Like, can you define anything about presence or mindfulness? Because you're always here.
Yeah.
But you're here. Yeah. Right. So the point is, I'm making tangible that you become more connected by connecting your fitness goal to your purpose. So basically, we're finding your purpose. Oh, now I can feel that and see it.
Yeah.
And so, yes, inner core. Also, my favorite muscle in the body is the transverse abdominis, the TVA, which is literally your inner core. Yeah. It's the most important core in your body behind your belly button.
Yeah.
So there's that too.
Would you hit those doing like vacuums?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how you can gauge it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's TVA is the core. People think of the rectus abdominis, the 6-pack. Yeah. But most people, guys especially, will have like a big belly 6-pack because they don't have a tight core.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, thanks for reminding me of that. I used to do a lot of freaking vacuums. I need to start getting back into that.
Yeah.
as well. But I love the name, man, and that there's a lot of, again, intention and there's meaning behind it, and that like I feel that, you know, through my logo and my brand and stuff too. Like,
right.
It means something on a deeper level, right?
And when you see it, you feel it, and that's what matters. And about seeing it and feeling it, the thing that gets people lost is that they can't see and feel it.
Yeah,
let's see and feel it.
It's not tangible.
Yeah,
exactly. And anything else you want to cover on what you do? Because I want to ask a couple other questions, but.
Well, I have said that, you know, it's about being successful in your business. That is a key to what I say, because people will often have that experience. Like my bullseye avatar client is the person who's like been doing like a, you know, private equity, like bank CEO, like real estate, you know, mogul. These people are like going hard and they're successful, but the health just doesn't happen. And they've tried and it just doesn't happen. And the reason it doesn't happen is because deep down they think that they should only be successful in this one thing. Yeah. And so part of this is like, sure, balance, but also like I'm giving them the key through their mind.
Yeah.
And that's like let's call it a hack, because everyone talks about hacks.
Yeah.
But there's no side effect to this. This is like, you will maybe feel a little vulnerable. You'll feel like, you know, this is different, but like I do the mind work. You just answer questions.
Well, it's like kind of goes to mind muscle connection. People think it's like, okay, think about that muscle. But I think with you, there's a different layer to what that actually means, rather than thinking about like the bicep when you're curling it, right? Like broadly, people think that, okay, that's mind muscle connection, but there's more to it.
Yeah. And all these things get so nuanced, like feel your bicep, okay, fine. But like, what is that doing for you besides engaging? Like, yeah. Why don't you just engage? And what I'm doing is making sure that your mind really wants it.
For sure.
That's why it happens.
Now, I want your opinion. I know where I stand on it, because you see it all the time. But given where you're at, typically people are lacking in the physical fitness. Now, the opposite side of that, being physical fit and emotionally unhealthy. Do you work with people in that kind of area as well, or is that something, or do you have anything to say to that?
I think it's very common, especially in fitness. Yeah. I would say that's a main reason why I built this modality, is because there's so much of that. Like guys who are obsessed about being physically fit, but don't have their relationships in order, can't make money, right? That is a problem. The reason those guys usually wouldn't work with me is because they're not in a place where they actually want to make the change.
Yeah.
But if they're at a place where like, oh, I don't get it, why is this happening? And they're like, God, something's coming up. Like, you know, they just talked to Joe on his podcast and like, man, I really want to get better in my business. And I don't know why it's not happening, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing where it's like, I can do that too. The difference is that we are making sure that their purpose is in line, and the purpose feeds into business.
Yeah.
So it would work, but it's not like my bullseye avatar. It would be like maybe an avatar or a dud avatar, but it's definitely, I can work with that. Yeah. I wouldn't say that it's like the most common.
Well, it's just like on social media, you know, you see people, you typically don't see the deeper layers of things. You don't see the hard shit people are going through.
Yeah.
They've got the aesthetic, they got the look. And it's the same thing with their physical fitness, right? They're like, okay, I want the aesthetic and the look. People don't got to see the other shit. I can just portray that.
Exactly.
Kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Couple more things. This has been a very vulnerable podcast, right?
I was even thinking about getting more vulnerable, but let's get it. Let's get there, baby.
Yeah. So, one, why are men so afraid of vulnerability in your mind?
In this culture, I can only talk about America. I've been to other cultures, right? But let's talk about the American culture, North America. The reason that we don't want to be vulnerable in general is because we've been taught that vulnerability is a weakness and won't get us what we want.
Generational conditions.
Mm-hmm. My favorite phrase that is, you know, a sarcastic, but it's people still say it, is like, nobody cares, work harder.
Yeah.
That's about the, straight white man.
Yeah.
Privileged straight white man.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Work harder.
Yeah.
It's true for other guys too and women too, but that's my point. Also, because that there is so much lack of self-love in this culture, and it's like capitalists like make money and do that thing, when men get vulnerable, a lot of times other men use that moment of vulnerability to take them down and crush them.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
So when somebody says to you or to me, like, just be vulnerable, it'll work out, that actually isn't always true.
Well, yeah, and even in home, because I say this because given my experience with my wife, but also past relationships, women have seen their fathers with that same kind of conditioning, right? Just tough it out, deal with it. So when men are vulnerable to a lot of times they're women, they don't want to hear it. They feel like it's like they don't know how to react to that. And a lot of times they will use whatever was said to them. It could be the darkest thing against them in a certain situation, right?
Exactly.
And then that's like the worst thing you can do. So it spirals men away even further,
Yeah.
It's a dangerous game.
And I can say that when I lost my job, girlfriend, and band in 1 week, that girlfriend was not okay with my emotions. I was breaking down in front of her, and she literally said, I can't handle this.
Yeah.
And she basically was breaking up with me. So it's like the weird thing about all this that we talk about like being vulnerable and how important it is like, it's true, but you also got to be like pretty discerning about where you do it.
Yeah.
So like with you right now, Joe, like I feel I could easily cry and feel okay about it.
Yeah.
And we haven't, and that's okay. But like I could do that.
Cry.
Yes. Forcing.
Please cry.
Vulnerably though. Yeah. But the point is like, this is a container and you set up a good container.
Thank you.
And in another container, I wouldn't feel as comfortable.
Yeah.
I might be willing enough to allow myself to be vulnerable in that container to help them be vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I'm still like being discerning, right?
Yeah.
And I have definitely in my life been vulnerable in many of the wrong situations and been taken advantage of, especially by my mom and my dad and my sister, right? So I learned to turn it off, and I did. And that's what brought me to like suicidality. Was like, I don't want to live because I couldn't be vulnerable, but I also couldn't like express myself and like know what I wanted.
When were you at that place?
2016.
2016, when it all kind of fell through.
Yeah, I was just like, I have no desire for anything because I can't do, like, I am a sensitive and vulnerable guy. Like, I will say that straight up. I am a person who is, I really appreciate vulnerability and being vulnerable and being upset and emotional in the right places, right?
Yeah.
And I am, my chosen woman, like, she is good with my emotions. And that is a testament to like, that's why we work.
Yeah.
Right. Other women haven't been, and that's why we haven't worked.
Yeah.
And thank God we didn't work.
And,
right.
And again, it makes you so much stronger being willing to do so, especially in front of the right woman.
Right.
That'll make you a better man.
Oh, totally.
Because a lot of people think vulnerability is like, well, you lack toughness or like being able to like, and I'm like, dude, I can cry about some deep shit and in the same weekend bare knuckle fight some dudes,
right.
For a competition. Like, I don't know. I think that's a good bridge of like having, the capability, but also being able to tear those walls down. Like,
and have you ever had a bare knuckle fight with a guy and then hugged him and cried him with him?
Oh, it's been emotional connection after that. Yeah.
I've done jujitsu, and that's a kind of similar thing where it's like going through the roll and like, man, thank you. I'm kind of upset right now. That was great.
Yeah. And I think a lot of like learning how to be where the right spaces to be vulnerable at is, for me, I'm in a position where I can't care because I bleed it in this, in everything I do. I'm portraying that to the world. Like, I put myself out there vulnerably. So I have to understand that people at some point will attack that.
Yeah.
And like, I got to be ready for that because it is what it is. It's what I signed up for. But that's like, I want to help people be vulnerable and grow and all those things. So I have to sacrifice that in order to create the impact that I want to do. I signed up for that. Now, that doesn't suggest that everybody does that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or at least not yet. Hopefully at some point in time we will get to where that's common, and that is the thing. But it's going to take a lot of work to get there. And it's going to take a lot of people about action and being out there doing it. And so, and this can come in a number of ways, and it's going to take a long time. But, people like us being willing to like take those steps, I think is very important. I do look at us like our generation is kind of a bridge, because I see like that maybe in the future generations, not to knock people, but I think, there's like an overleaning into vulnerability.
A what?
Like leaning too hard into it,
absent
of like the tough side.
Yes.
But then like generations before, there's no vulnerability. So I think it's beautiful. I look at, our generation specifically, I love it because I feel like we're a bridge between the two, is like pulling from that, the strengths from that, because there's a lot of value in being able to put your head down and grind and do like the man shit, but also pull from the vulnerable side and then bring those two worlds together and to create the whole man that is actually, impacts society in a powerful way.
Yeah, I think, I like we keep talking about dichotomies. I think that we're talking about this moment of the dichotomy of going from like misogynistic, emotionless man, to beta, upset, vulnerable man.
Yeah.
Like that's unhealthy. And so is that.
Yeah.
In between is where vulnerable, strong boundaries, unconditional / conditional love, right? Like it's being real, authentic, and being able to choose the moments where you're vulnerable and emotional.
Exactly. And one thing I tell myself all the time is like, be the man I want my daughter to marry one day.
Right.
So it takes awareness of both sides.
Totally.
Like, what is the idea? I want perfect for her. All right. And so like, I'm not perfect, but how do I strive towards that and bridge those worlds together so that way she can see her dad like move a bunch of shit and be capable and all this stuff and like, protect her if need be, but also see that she can trust her father in every way, no matter what she goes through in life, and like be able to like trust that he's going to be there for her emotionally.
Yeah. And one of those,
I want her husband to deliver those same things one day.
Right. And one of those places where like I see like my eventual daughter is like the same kind of thing where like I can sit with my daughter and like cry with her and be like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I'm upset right now, and these tears are okay.
Yeah.
And we can have tears together. And like, I'm showing you that I'm vulnerable and you can, take that and know that like, it's good.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that like I'm weak.
Yeah.
Right. Cause like, there's a lot of like that too, of like men who are, weak and like crying a lot and like complaining. And like, that's not good either.
No. And it's a tricky balance because you get extremes on both sides. And it's like, especially with the social media world, we talk about how in fitness, there's these extreme opposites. This is the right way. This is the right way. And then same thing with emotional availability. This is the way, because you get the people that are like extreme into, more the weak side, the beta looking thing. You see that portrayed a lot. But then you got the guys that are like in the gym and they're just like, and like they got a quote from some dude they don't even know that's like, fucking shut up and keep going, don't be up, what I'm saying?
Conquer your inner bitch.
We all have stuff, and like, man, that's important too, is not comparing our stuff to other people's stuff. Because I could sit there and watch someone's addiction story, and be like, damn, this shit was way worse than it was. And like, why am I, but at the end of the day, my experience is my own. Like, it's not meant to be lived through them. If anything, someone else's experience offers me perspective, and how I analyze certain things, but I'm not comparing it and saying my shit isn't that bad, or I'm not even going to say bad because it's all supposed to be what is, it's all meant to be, right? It's all paved the way. There's a purpose to it all, but yeah, I think we get oftentimes too, and I think that's a lot of times why men won't speak is because like we do with everything, we compare. So we don't think on one side, we don't think our experience compares to somebody else's and that like we shouldn't, why talk about it? Or we don't think anybody relates to what we're going through. So we bottle it in.
Or we worry about getting manipulated like we've been in the past.
Yeah.
And having our vulnerability be turned into being destroyed in the moment.
Yeah. And I think to what we were saying earlier is, or to what you said about like finding the right environment and space to do that in, start somewhere and then stay consistent with that. And then over time, I think you learn like where that's the right fit. And you're not going to get blasted for it.
Right. Not blasted. And also you can do it in more places, even if it's not the quote unquote right place.
Yeah.
Like being so strong and self-reliant enough that when your vulnerability actually is taken advantage of, that you're still okay.
Oh yeah.
Now that's elevation.
Oh, I mean, shoot, I will say 100% confidence. Like if I'm vulnerable somewhere and someone smirks at it, I'll just be like, feel sorry for you. Yeah. I mean, it won't bother me. It just, if anything, it stokes like some compassion in my heart for them. Like, damn, like the fact that you're willing to laugh at this or, mock my experience in this way.
Yeah. That little like,
all it does is shed light on the shit you have not faced, that you have buried down. So if anything, I'm just like, I just want to put my hand on your shoulder and be like, it's going to be okay. But like, it does take a lot of work to get to that place,
and many errors, like doing it and getting taken advantage of, and then being like, I don't need to let myself get taken advantage of or feel bad about it.
Yeah. And then I think in time too, as you allow it to, you kind of lead with that in a lot of ways. You'd be surprised at how many doors it does open.
Right. The right people see you doing that and they're like, I wanted somebody like you. Let's do this.
Even in business, there'll be people like, man, I love that. Like, we want you a part of this or that, because they see you for what you are, because they've been screwed over. So at least they know by you being honest and vulnerable that you're not going to do that. But like, people want to be surrounded by that, I think, in time. You just got to give them time too, and even the wrong people. Yeah. Again, give them time.
I wish, it's like putting that out there. I wish that our culture had more places or ability to argue without it going badly. Being able to disagree or get vulnerable or have opinions clashing, and then at the end of it have a genuine hug, because like, it's okay. We're different people. We're different humans. We have different experience, and still be okay with it.
Yeah.
There's always that thin line too, where like morality is basically morality, and you can't really turn that into like opinion.
Well, even then, it's like, just cut it clean there, rather than like raising hell about like how wrong they are, like, okay, this is obviously a line I won't cross.
Right.
Maybe we just stop it there, because like, I'm not going to shift my mind or my heart on that. And that just is what that is me being honest with you.
Exactly.
And people can't just be honest and be like, all right, line's cut. Cool. Part ways. Right. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places people just want to argue.
Well, the curiosity is what cuts all that out. I think what we're losing what I see us losing is the curiosity aspect.
Yeah.
There are so many ways to look at things curiously, as opposed to with hard set trauma trigger.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, this is its own thing, and it can get into like weird places, but like, I think, it's important to be able to talk and be vulnerable and disagree and still talk.
Yeah.
That's so important. And our society needs more of that. And the reason that I do what I do is that when people are aligned with their purpose and they're feeling themselves pulled to their North Star, they don't need to argue arbitrarily.
Okay. Yeah. And that makes perfect sense. And I think that's where I want to share something we talked about at the beginning, is just walking the walk, right? Like, you don't have to argue about things if you're just living it.
Right.
If you're walking the path, you don't have to sit here and say, hey, this is the way. Just do the way.
Exactly. We need more of that.
Yes.
People doing it don't need to talk about it.
Exactly. I mean, and just a perfect example, because there's a lot of people I know that are Christian and stuff. I mean, that's what Christ did. He just did it. He just walked the walk, and a lot of people followed him. You know? And I'm not going to dive into all that stuff, but like, it's just a perfect lesson for people that understand that more. Is like, dude, the dude just walked the walk.
And he kept doing it anyway.
He kept doing it anyway.
Till the last moment.
Yes.
Anyway.
And he did what he had to do. So anyways, I want to continue this podcast forever. This has been a long episode. We're just going to have to I'm going to get you that. We're going to do another one because I've had a lot of fun with you today, man.
Like yeah.
I do.
Like hanging with you.
Yeah, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah.
Like I've gained so much value from this conversation today. I do want to hit you some rapid fire questions and then my final question.
Okay.
One belief you've completely changed your mind on.
I have completely changed my mind on the belief that people aren't doing the best that they know how to do. I now know that they are doing the best that they know how to do. That also means that sometimes they need to be checked.
Yeah. I do want to say you brought him, just by you saying that at the beginning, it kind of broadened my perspective on that. So thank you. I gained something from that. I haven't really looked at it in that way. So thanks.
My pleasure.
A habit that changed your life.
Meditation has drastically changed my world.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even start telling you how much it's changed my world, but like it's brought me into being more present with fitness.
Yeah.
With, finding what is right in the moment. Even when I've decided to move to New York, there she is. So I'm changing that now.
Yeah.
Because of meditation, it was like, presence.
Nice.
Yeah.
A book everyone should read.
Well, I brought it up, so I'll just say it again. The Ghost in My Brain
is
fantastic. It's about a guy with TBI and talking about how the mind needs a bunch of levels to do anything. And when you've had a concussion or something has happened to your brain because of some injury, things fragment. Yeah. And the thing that book did most for me, besides letting me see how TBI affects people I didn't know about, is like, we need to be able to experience patience with people that we don't understand way more all the time.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I'll have to check that one out.
Yes. You would like it.
If someone listening feels completely disconnected from themselves, what's the first small step you'd tell them to take tomorrow morning?
Listen to the first thought you have when you wake up. Hear it. Breathe into it 3 times.
Thank you for that. I'm going to give that a shot. I do want to ask you this one more question too. What kind of man are you still trying to become?
I'm still trying. I'm still allowing myself more to have success be internal than external, while also allowing the external success to show up. I am still balancing that act of like, I feel it and I don't see it enough, or I see it and don't feel it. And just getting that to be internal is everything.
I feel that, man. Thank you. Final question. Tycho, what is your relentless pursuit?
My relentless pursuit is being so in love with my life that whatever happens, I am always able to feel it with joy. But that doesn't mean always being happy.
Yeah.
Feeling it with joy means being with the moment completely.
Heaven on earth, man.
Heaven on earth, exactly. And like people might talk about that as like enlightenment, but no, I mean like just having the experience is what matters.
Yes. And the experience is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Tycho, where can everybody find you? Show some support, show some love.
Yeah. So my website is www.icgainz.com.
Okay.
Text and call me anytime, though I won't necessarily be responding in the middle of the night. 617-852-2202. So that's a Boston area code, but I am in Nashville where it's 615 and 617.
Oh yeah.
And then I also am on LinkedIn, Tycho Bergquist, and my YouTube is also Inner Core Gains.
Tycho, thank you for your time today, man. This has been an awesome time, dude. I've gained so much value from this conversation. What a powerful way to spend my Sunday morning into late afternoon now. But yeah, thank you so much.
It. Thank you, Joe.
Of course. Hey, I'm going to move this, shake your hand real quick. All right, guys, till next time. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned in this show, and honestly in life, is that healing doesn't live in just one lane. Some people find it through addiction recovery, some through therapy, some through faith, some through hard conversations that they've avoided for years, and some for finally being honest about what they're carrying. I started this show to give people a voice, to share real journeys, real struggles, and real growth. And what it's shown me is how many people are walking through similar battles, even if it looks different on the surface. Through this platform, I've been connected with people across so many lanes: addiction recovery, mental health, veterans and first responders, faith, marriage and relationships, trauma, and everything in between. I want to say this clearly. If you're listening right now and you're struggling, please reach out. You don't need to know exactly what you need. You don't need the right words. You don't have to even know exactly where to start, but through my network, I'll do everything I can to get you connected with the right person in the right lane for where you are. That's what the show is about. Real stories, real connection, and reminding people that there is a way forward.